The Sorcerer, The Path to Transcendence starting from Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101 Church. In the dim basement light, Weiss pushed Bellatrix toward Moody. Leave it to you, Moody caught Bellatrix. I'll make her confess everything clearly, the word sent a chill through his heart. Moody's fingers tapped lightly on his wand, already planning how to get Bellatrix to speak. I mean, just give her Veritaserum. Weiss hadn't expected Moody to have such a penchant for torture. Moody's expression flickered to disappointment for a moment, but he quickly composed himself and pulled a vial of Veritaserum from within his robes. He then forced Bellatrix to drink the potion, and as it took effect, Bellatrix revealed the whereabouts of Hufflepuff's cup and Voldemort's hideout. I didn't expect it to be in London, Moody frowned. It's not that far from here. No wonder we couldn't find them. Arthur immediately unfolded the map in his hand and tapped the target location. Their hideout is in an abandoned church, with few residents around. This meant the operation could be more covert, minimizing unnecessary risk. Sirius could no longer contain his passion. He clenched his fists and said, "What are we waiting for? Let's teach those Death Eaters a lesson they won't forget. No time to lose, move now." Dumbledore gave the order decisively. Every member of the Order of the Phoenix sensed the urgency of the situation and quickly assembled, preparing to head for the abandoned church. Of course, they wouldn't rashly leave through the main gate. After all, there was no guarantee that Death Eater spies might be lurking outside. Using a portkey to move to another safe location and then adopting a suitable disguise was the safest approach. When they reappeared, they had arrived in a quiet suburban area. Not far away, an ancient church stood quietly, its cross atop the roof looking particularly lonely in the setting sun. A white-haired grandmother sat on a bench in front of the church. To avoid attracting the attention of the surrounding crowd, Weiss approached the bench alone. The grandmother struck up a conversation with Weiss in a familiar manner. Nowadays, the number of believers is decreasing, and no one comes to worship, so it's slowly becoming deserted, said the old lady, a long-time resident who knew the area well. Later, a wealthy man bought a church and planned to convert it into a residence, the old lady sighed. As a devout believer, she saw the church as God's dwelling on earth, but now everything seemed to have changed. Alice, it's all about money. Money paves the way for everything. After obtaining the information they needed, Weiss politely took his leave. Dumbledore and the other members of the Order of the Phoenix weren't good at dealing with ordinary people. After returning with the news, the Order adjusted their plan based on the intelligence. They don't seem to realize Bella's situation. Perhaps we can wait until they're all gathered tonight before taking action. Moody cleverly disguised himself as an old man reading a book, but he held the book upside down, a detail that added a touch of authenticity. Ultimately, they decided to follow Moody's advice and surround the church to ensure the enemy couldn't escape. After a brief discussion, they decided to wait until the enemy had gathered before taking action. A daytime raid would be too conspicuous, likely attracting unwanted attention. As darkness fell, the abandoned church fell silent, broken only by the occasional rustle of wind and the distant barking of dogs. The Order of the Phoenix members took their respective vantage points, each holding their breath, their wands tightly gripped. Several Death Eaters returned, including Fenrir Greyback, leader of the werewolves and a man renowned for his cruelty and bloodlust. He's actually recruiting aliens. Hasn't Voldemort always looked down on humanoids like werewolves and vampires? Moody said in a low voice. It only means he's out of manpower now. Voldemort's move clearly exposed his predicament, boosting the Order's morale. Night fell, and a hush fell. The Wheel Eyes, Nymphadora Tonks, and Hestia Jones stood at 4 points in the church, their wands raised. They chanted a spell in unison, and an invisible veil unfolded around the church. This veil wasn't a defensive device, but rather a deceptive device, blocking out sounds and everything happening inside, making any movements undetectable to the outside world. While it lacked formidable defensive capabilities, it offered excellent concealment, generating virtually no magical fluctuations, thus preventing detection by the enemy. With the veil in place, the church's interior was completely sealed off from the outside world. Wearing the invisibility cloak, Weiss evaded the various traps set at the church entrance, defeated the Death Eaters guarding the gate, and successfully entered the church. The invisibility cloak, borrowed from Harry by Sirius, was one of the 3 Deathly Hallows, rendering it completely invisible to the naked eye. Weiss volunteered to explore the church, casting a silencing charm to muffle his own sounds and a special spell to eliminate his body odor. This allowed him to move silently through the church like a ghost, leaving no trace. According to intelligence, the church had 3 floors. Barty Jr. and Nagini were on the top floor, with Barty Jr. constantly guarding the snake. The second floor housed the court Death Eaters, while the first floor housed the guards. Weiss didn't want to alert the enemy. If Barty Jr. noticed something was amiss and escaped with Nagini, all his efforts would be in vain. Therefore, he decided to deal with the guards on the first floor first. These Death Eaters were practically cannon fodder, and before they could react, Weiss had already knocked them out one by one with silent stunning spells. To avoid attracting the attention of the Death Eaters upstairs, Weiss placed the unconscious Death Eaters in a suitcase. After dealing with the enemies on the first floor, Weiss quietly ascended the stairs and headed for the second floor. The atmosphere on the second floor was noticeably different, with a more cramped space. This was where the elite Death Eaters lived, their vigilance heightened and their combat effectiveness enhanced. Weiss stood among the Death Eaters, his invisibility cloak making him invisible, as if to air. No one noticed his presence. Fenrir Greyback, seemingly sensing something was amiss, sniffed the air, his movements drawing the attention of the other Death Eaters. "Did your dog nose smell anything, Fenrir?" Avery sneered. He had always been prejudiced against werewolves, believing that they were only fit to be slaves, but now he had to be on an equal footing with them, which made Avery very dissatisfied. Chapter 102 Preparation Ceremony. Fenrir bared his sharp teeth at Avery, growling softly and glaring at him fiercely. Seeing this, Avery immediately pointed his wand at Fenrir and challenged him, "You want to fight me, wolf cub?" Fenrir instantly transformed into his werewolf form, his hair standing on end and his muscles swelling, and the atmosphere became increasingly tense. The other Death Eaters, not wanting to escalate the situation, tried to dissuade the two, but it was too late. Thunderbolt, a blasting curse struck Fenrir's chest, exploding into a bloody mess. Fenrir collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath, blood gushing from the wound. Everyone stared at Avery in shock, and even he himself was stunned. He looked down at his wand, wondering when he had achieved a level of instantaneous power. But then, he reacted and shouted, "Intruders!" A high-pitched phoenix cry echoed from the sky, followed by a violent explosion on the third floor. The Death Eaters' eyes all turned towards the third floor. 10,000 bombs. Weiss seized the Death Eaters' moment of confusion, and countless golden balls of light shot out from the tip of his wand, hurtling towards the surrounding Death Eaters. The Death Eaters reacted immediately, shouting armor, in an attempt to block the sudden attack. However, their defensive spells proved vulnerable to Weiss's powerful attack, breaking in almost a second. Freeze! Before the Death Eaters could retaliate, they were covered in a thick layer of frost, unable to move. Weiss wasted no time, loading the frozen Death Eaters into a suitcase. These would be of great use later. Just as Weiss closed the suitcase, Nagini scurried down from the third floor, and Weiss was determined to catch her. He immediately raised his wand and cast a petrification spell, attempting to immobilize her, but Nagini, with her agility and maneuvering, managed to dodge the blow. "That won't do," Weiss adjusted his strategy. With a flick of his wand, the entire second floor of the church seemed to come alive. Countless arms extended from the wall, silently and ghostly reaching for Nagini. Nagini initially relied on brute strength and agility to evade them, but their sheer number and speed far exceeded her expectations. Finally, one arm grasped Nagini's tail, and others quickly followed, holding her firmly in place. Nagini whined in frustration and struggled to free herself, but to no avail. Just as Weiss had successfully subdued Nagini, Dumbledore arrived, looking disheveled and dusty. "Is Barty Chan that formidable?" Weiss observed Dumbledore. Dumbledore sighed, a trace of fatigue on his face. "Perhaps Voldemort taught him some powerful dark magic. If it weren't for Fawkes, I'd have been smitten." Dumbledore didn't elaborate on the specific dark magic, and Weiss wasn't interested in such self-sacrifice. Watching Nagini struggle, Dumbledore's eyes flickered with sympathy. He and Nagini had a connection, but since her permanent transformation into a snake and becoming Voldemort's Horcrux, Nagini had become completely devoted to Voldemort, becoming either cold or vicious towards others. Weiss noticed Dumbledore's hesitation. "Don't you want to act?" Dumbledore was silent for a moment before slowly speaking. "I suspect there are more than 6 Horcruxes. I'm afraid Harry was made one. Unbeknownst to Voldemort, Weiss had known this all along. So, I haven't figured out how to get rid of Voldemort without harming Harry, Dumbledore admitted. Even he found it daunting. Nagini is the host of a blood curse. I've seen her in her human form. I think Newt might be able to help. See if he can restore Nagini, Weiss warned. At least don't let her escape. Voldemort could very well be resurrected in her body, of course. Dumbledore nodded, then cast a spell, transforming Nagini into a small snake. Fawkes flew over, gently picked up the snake, and prepared to carry it away. Just then, the other Order of the Phoenix members arrived. They searched everywhere, but couldn't find a single Death Eater. All done, Moody said, a little disappointed. He had been thinking of taking out a few Death Eaters to vent his anger. Restore this place to its original state, and don't attract the attention of Muggles, Weiss instructed. Also, the cup is in Bella's vault at Gringotts. I think you can find a way to retrieve it. With that, Weiss disapparated away. Dumbledore, the Death Eaters he holds should. Moody wondered about the Death Eaters captured by Weiss. Dumbledore stopped him, saying, we have much more to do. Let's not worry about this for now. Fudge's targeting, the other dark wizards and creatures of darkness were all stirring. And then there was Harry's situation. Now was not the time to dwell on the fate of a few Death Eaters. Weiss, after leaving, didn't return to the Black Mansion, but instead to the Fountain of Youth from Pirates of the Caribbean. His sudden appearance frightened the 5 mermaids into shrinking. Ladies, with any luck, you'll be free today. The cave was too small, so Weiss arrived at the island and, after a thorough inspection to confirm there were no intruders, ordered the island's zombies to kill any intruders without mercy. Then, he began to lay out the magic circle. Finding a flat surface, Weiss first constructed a basic circular outline, then began to draw the intricate magic patterns. This meticulous and time-consuming task took a full 3 hours to complete. As the final stroke was made, Weiss wiped the sweat from his forehead and chuckled self-deprecatingly. I suppose I'm the only one who's prepared a sacrifice for myself. Once everything was ready, Weiss opened the suitcase, and Jandy emerged, dragging a chain. Behind the chains were 7 Death Eaters, each bound and shackled. They, too, trembled with a premonition of something horrific to come. Peter Pettigrew, upon seeing Weiss approaching, collapsed to the ground, wailing. Jandy conjured a whip and lashed him mercilessly, but Peter refused to stand, having lost all courage and dignity. Weiss approached Peter, looking down at him. Peter, grasping at straws, began kissing Weiss's boots. Lord Erwin, give me a chance, his voice filled with desperation and pleading. Weiss silenced Peter, silencing him. Of these 7, I'm most optimistic about you. Weiss's words made Peter's eyes light up, believing a change of heart. However, Wes's next words were like a bucket of cold water poured on Peter's heart. You are very lucky and have escaped death several times. I hope your good luck can help me complete the sacrifice ceremony. Peter's eyes dimmed in an instant, and his heart was filled with fear and despair. Chapter 103 Leaving. 7 Death Eaters were placed at the outermost edge of the magic circle, each with a small magic circle beneath their feet. These small magic circles connected to the larger one in the center, forming a complex whole. As for why 7 people were required, 7 itself is a number imbued with magical power and symbolism, holding a crucial place in many ancient magical rituals. Without their wands, these Death Eaters would have no way of escaping. Weiss arrived at the center of the magic circle, ready to begin this crucial ritual. Jandy also entered the center of the magic circle, holding up a Philosopher's Stone larger than himself, and knelt on the ground with a solemn expression. Begin when you're ready, Weiss commanded. Then Jandy began to pray loudly, Mysterious Lord who travels through endless worlds, Seeker of mysteries, Lord of the mysteries, all-knowing and almighty, your humble servant prays to you. Jandy knelt on the ground, holding the Philosopher's Stone high. He appeared devout, truly giving his all. As he prayed, a strong wind began to blow around him, but the air within the magic circle was strangely calm, isolated by an invisible barrier. Dark clouds began to gather over the island, shrouding it in a gloomy gloom. The magic circle shone with a red light, growing stronger and more dazzling. As Jandy uttered his last word, the Philosopher's Stone began to disintegrate. First, it transformed into a dark red liquid, flowing slowly. Weiss watched the process closely, afraid to miss a single detail. Then the liquid began to split in two. One half was a bright red, full of vitality, the other was a nauseating black, as if something was struggling within. The black liquid was formed from the condensation of thousands of wronged souls, each brimming with resentment and pain. Their gazes fixed fiercely on Weiss, knowing he was the one coveting the power of the Philosopher's Stone, and therefore filled with hostility. Weiss's scalp tingled, and without delay, he immediately activated his pre-prepared backup plan. The magic circle beneath the 7 Death Eater's feet activated, emitting a powerful light. The gazes of the wronged souls were drawn there, unable to suppress their resentment. They split into 7 dark shadows and pounced on the 7 Death Eaters. They then burrowed into their bodies, gnawing at their flesh and sucking out their souls. The Death Eaters writhed on the ground in agony, screaming shrilly. Their fingers, slashing bloody streaks on the ground, were so bloody that even the bare bones were visible. Beyond the excruciating physical pain, the agony of their souls remained undiminished. After several minutes, countless tiny black hands emerged from the magic circle, wrapping themselves around the Death Eaters and grasping them tightly. The places on their bodies that were touched began to crack, and their skin gradually turned to ash, and then dissipated into the air bit by bit. After a while, the dark clouds in the sky slowly dissipated, and the sun shone down, shining on Weiss. He closed his eyes, feeling the life energy filling his body. This power not only made him feel stronger than ever before, but also greatly extended his lifespan. Part of the energy was hidden in his cells, waiting to be gradually absorbed. This feels great, Weiss clenched his fists. As a wizard, he had not done any special physical training, but now he felt that his strength, agility and reaction speed had improved significantly. He waved his arms, trying to adapt to this sudden power. I have to adapt. In the following days, Wes's physical strength increased every day. He was extremely energetic, bombarding the island with spells every day, venting energy that had nowhere to be released, and the animals and plants on the island suffered. When Wes was thoroughly familiar with this surging power, the panel changed. Host, Wes Erwin World, Marvel, Harry Potter, Labyrinth Rice, at Alchemy %, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Mummy, Fairy Tale Occupation, Wizard Pharmacist Alchemist Level 5. The wizard level was increased by 1 level. Although it did not bring about a qualitative change in magic power like the promotion to level 4, the main improvement this time was in physical strength. But no matter which path you choose, magic, cultivation or martial arts, a strong body is the most important link. One cannot go far if you are biased in one subject. The body is as important as the mind and soul. Maybe I should learn some swordsmanship and physical skills? A picture emerged in his mind. In the fierce battle, the enemy had barely dodged his magic attack and tried to fight in close combat, but he himself picked up a big sword and was at a loss. This picture made him laugh. This is quite interesting. Weiss's mouth curled up, and he began to have new expectations. The next world is the world of fairy tale. The magicians in that world combine magic and physical skills, which may be worth learning from. Weiss decided to learn from their experience and improve his ability in close combat. It's time to leave Hogwarts. I have copied all the books in the library in the past few years, which is enough for me to digest for a while. The world of Harry Potter is still too peaceful as a whole. It's no use staying in this world. Once the decision was made, Weiss immediately took action. You want to resign? Dumbledore put down his book. He had just been looking up how to solve Harry's problem, but he hadn't expected Weiss to resign. Although he had expected this, Dumbledore still wanted to keep his capable assistant. Weiss shook her head, rejecting Dumbledore's offer. The Ministry of Magic has assigned Umbridge to teach defense against the dark arts, and she also has the power to judge professors. If I continue at the school, I will definitely clash with her. Dumbledore nodded. He had heard of Umbridge's style. She came to Hogwarts not just to be a professor, but was assigned by Fudge to cause trouble for him, ideally to force his resignation. Of course, these were all Weiss's excuses. She had already made up her mind to leave. Seeing that Weiss was determined, Dumbledore could only agree. Dumbledore, when we meet again, I will have left you far behind. Dumbledore was stunned, then smiled slightly. He stood up and extended his hand to Weiss in farewell. I understand your decision, Weiss. You have already made your own path, and I believe you will go further. By the way, Hogwarts always welcomes you back. The two smiled at each other, and Weiss turned and left Dumbledore's office. Thanks to Tong Shinjaya Azulingbeo Shianzan, Jiangbian Duayu, and all the book friends. Chapter 104 New Journey. Escalante, Kingdom of Fiori. Weiss appeared out of nowhere in a dense forest, surrounded by nothing but trees, unable to determine his location. First, find a city. I'll get some information about Fairy Tale and determine where the plot is going. Then Weiss took out his flying broom and soared into the air, trying to find any trace of a town from above. However, all he could see was endless woods, no sign of life. This landing location is too remote. Unfamiliar with the area, he flew in the direction of the river, hoping to find some clues. After more than 3 hours of flight, Weiss finally saw smoke rising from a small village not far away. He pressed a broom and landed in the village's central square, immediately attracting the attention of the residents. They looked at the sudden stranger with curiosity and wariness. A gray-haired old man, leaning on a cane, slowly approached Weiss and asked cautiously, "Mage, may I ask what your purpose is here?" "Hello, I'm lost. Which direction is the nearest city?" Weiss, sensing the old man's nervousness, quickly reassured him, "I mean no harm. I just happened to be passing through here." The old man breathed a sigh of relief and pointed westward. "Follow this river and you'll reach Harjan, the nearest city to our village." Weiss noticed the villagers, all armed and wary. He asked, "You seem frightened." The old man didn't hide the fact. The Magic Council has issued a warning about recent Dark Guild activity nearby. "We're being extra cautious." "I see," Weiss said, sensing the villagers' disapproval of the man of unknown origin. He took out a gold coin and, with a flick of his thumb, it landed securely in the old man's hand. "This is for your guidance." With that, Weiss left the village on his flying broom. The old man rubbed the gold coins in his hand. "He doesn't seem like a bad guy." Weiss flew toward Harjan, gaining a preliminary understanding of the situation in the area. Suddenly, he sensed a strong surge of magical energy coming from below. He swerved to avoid the incoming flames, which hissed past his ears. "Who's there?" Weiss shouted, lowering his broom to prepare for a possible attack. Weiss looked down and saw 5 men with bizarre attire and colorful hair, their arms folded, staring at him with ill intent. One of them, a man with a rooster comb, shouted, "Hand over everything valuable on you, or I'll punish you." With that, 2 balls of flame erupted from his hands. It was this man with the rooster comb who had attacked Weiss earlier, attempting to intercept him. "Don't try to escape. I'm skilled in flight magic. You can't get away." The man with the airplane comb had a ferocious look on his face, confident in his abilities. "These are mages from the Dark Guild. What a coincidence, and why would they reveal their magic to the enemy?" While Weiss was pondering, the 5 men, assuming he was frightened, boasted triumphantly, "Boy, now that you know how powerful we are, get down here and we'll spare your life." Weiss slowly descended from the air and landed on the ground. The man with the crew cut strode towards Weiss with an arrogant gait, a scornful smile on his face. "What? Are you too scared to speak?" Before the man with the crew cut could finish his words, he was struck by a powerful force, sent flying backwards, slamming hard against a thick tree trunk. His eyes rolled back, and he passed out. People in this world seem to be more resilient. Using their bodies to resist magic only results in death. Although the protagonist's magic in the comics couldn't kill, Weiss speculated that this might be related to the physical conditions here. The other 4 men, seeing their comrade stunned, were surprised that Weiss dared to resist. They immediately assumed fighting stances, ready to attack in unison. "Damn it! Kill this guy!" A magic circle appeared in front of one of the men with the coxcomb haircut, and flames erupted. The other 3 men immediately attacked, each unleashing a different magical attack. The power of the magic was approximately level 3. Weiss quickly made his assessment. A solid earth wall appeared before him, blocking the 4 attacks and obscuring their vision. The wall collapsed under the fierce attack, sending smoke and dust billowing. The 4 Dark Guild mages continued their bombardment, but when the smoke cleared, they had no trace of Weiss. "Where's that kid? Did he escape? That guy has a magic broom. Did he escape through the air?" The man with the crew cut looked up at the sky. Just as they looked up to see Weiss, he had already apparated behind them, concealing his magic. A vast net of lightning enveloped the 4 men. By the time they sensed the magical fluctuations behind them, it was too late. The net had blocked all their escape routes. They tried to counterattack with magic, but Weiss's magic power far outstripped theirs. The electric net tightly wrapped around the 4 men, the powerful current instantly blackening them, leaving only their white teeth gleaming in the darkness. Despite this, the 4 men remained vibrant and energetic. The wizards here were not only powerful in magic but also possessed exceptional physical fitness. Ascalon possessed abundant magical energy, and the wizards there practiced both magic and physical skills, resulting in physical fitness far exceeding that of wizards from the Harry Potter universe. Looks like a heavy hand is needed. Weiss cast another spell, completely eliminating the men. He then searched their loot, finding only a few coins and other small, worthless items. So poor, Weiss tossed the coins aside in disdain, leaving the bodies alone. After all, the beasts of the forest wouldn't miss a free lunch. Shortly after Weiss left, a tall, beautiful woman with long black hair and bangs, wearing a white top and a yellow belt, appeared on the scene. The Dark Forest 5 were eliminated? That won't do. We need more help from Leon. She carefully examined the traces of the battle and discovered some clues. The attacker used some kind of earth-attributed lightning magic. It was brutal and decisive. It doesn't look like the work of a wizard from the Guild of Light. Who could have done it? Then a crystal ball floated beside her. Let me see what just happened. The crystal ball displayed the scene of the battle. She saw a young, unfamiliar man, wand in hand, casting a series of powerful spells, easily defeating the Dark Forest 5. Chapter 105 Uninvited Guests. Weiss arrived at Harujan, a bustling port city attracting ships from far and wide. Huge sails shimmered against the shimmering water, and the docks were bustling with activity. Harujan itself wasn't a city of frequent magical activity, and wizards were rare. However, the ubiquitous presence of magical carriages and children playing with magical toys testified to the high level of magical civilization on the continent of Ascalon. Magic had long been an integral part of people's lives. Weiss asked several friendly locals about shops selling magic items and was told there was only one in this bustling city. He followed the directions and soon came upon a narrow door with a faded sign inscribed with the word Source of Magic. Weiss gently pushed open the wooden door, barely wide enough for one person to pass sideways. Ding-ling, welcome, a crisp bell rang, and the owner emerged from behind the counter, greeting him warmly. Weiss looked around. The shop wasn't large, perhaps 30 square meters, but it was neatly arranged. The shelves were filled with a variety of magical items. Though the magical energy they emanated wasn't strong, each one was unique and original, their appearance quite different from the magical items from the Harry Potter universe, exuding a uniquely mysterious aura of Ascalon. The shop owner, a shrewd businessman, observed Weiss calmly for a moment, then immediately realized this customer was special. While those who looked around hesitantly after entering the shop were likely simply curious, someone with Weiss's calm demeanor clearly came prepared and was a strong possibility for a major client. The shopkeeper narrowed his eyes and smiled flatteringly. You look unfamiliar, sir. Is this your first time in Harujan? Weiss nodded. I heard you're the only magic shop here, so I came to check it out. The shopkeeper's face lit up even more, every muscle straining to create his warmest smile. Allow me to introduce you. Our shop may not look large, but our assortment will surely amaze you. From magical tents for camping, to temperature-adjusting lighting, to potions for enhancing mana or healing wounds, we have it all. Weiss's eyes roamed the shelves. The sheer variety of goods in such a small shop proved that the magic in this world surpassed that of Harry Potter's. He carefully selected dozens of items, his smile growing wider with each one he took. Wow, this customer today is a steal. This single sale could easily equal my monthly turnover. Just as Weiss was about to pay, he realized he didn't have any currency from this world in his wallet. He paused awkwardly, and the shopkeeper's smile froze. Sir, don't you have any money? Weiss pondered for a moment, then pulled a gleaming gold bar from his small bag. Will you take this? The shopkeeper's eyes lit up. Gold? Of course. After confirming the gold bar's authenticity, the shopkeeper swiftly completed the transaction, gave Weiss a wad of currency from his own world, and respectfully escorted him out, not forgetting to offer a heartfelt blessing. I wish you a wonderful time in Harujan. Weiss left the shop and headed straight for an elegant restaurant. He chose a seat by the window, and the waiter quickly served him his meal, fresh lobster, fragrant seafood risotto, and dessert. Weiss couldn't help but swallow. Just as he was about to savor these delicacies, a short man wearing glasses and a strange mask arrived uninvited and sat down across from him. Weiss didn't look up, but spoke with a slightly cold tone. I think there's another table here. Hey, men, don't be so stingy. You ordered so much, one person can't finish it. The man's tone was so glib, it made people uncomfortable. You took out the Dark Forest wizard, but he caused me so much trouble, the man continued, unconcerned with the looks of those around him. It was those 5 guys in the forest I killed. The man was surprised by Weiss's straightforward admission, and then he let out a creepy laugh. Even though the Dark Forest is labeled a dark guild by the council, killing them like that, are you threatening me? Weiss raised his head, staring coldly at the man across from him. That's terrifying, the man said, not flinching, but rather challenging him. Are you going to fight here? As soon as he finished speaking, the other diners in the restaurant cast strange glances at him. After all, the restaurant was located on Harujan's busiest street, and the Magic Council had expressly forbidden wizards from fighting within the city. Especially in a crowded place like this, a fight could potentially land Weiss on the council's wanted list, but he wasn't one to be manipulated. The wooden chair suddenly seemed to come alive, with several thick branches extending from its legs, tightly wrapping around the man's limbs and tightening until he couldn't move. The man clearly hadn't expected Weiss to subdue him in public. Oh, how audacious. You completely disregard the council. You're even more brazen than the Dark Guild. Weiss ignored the man's shouting. You're being too loud. A slender branch silently emerged from behind the man, wrapped around his head, and sealed his mouth tightly. Weiss then continued to enjoy his meal as if nothing had happened. The commotion attracted the attention of other customers and the waiter. A waiter approached cautiously, saying, "Sir, please don't fight in this restaurant." "Excuse me." Weiss put down his knife and fork, his tone gentle. Seeing this, the waiter breathed a sigh of relief and quickly retreated. After the waiter left, Wes planned to interrogate a mysterious uninvited guest after finishing his meal. However, the changes that happened to the man surprised him a little. He didn't know what kind of magic was used, but the branches that were wrapped around the man gradually loosened, and finally faded away completely, and the chair returned to its original appearance. "Hey, please give me a set of cutlery." The man raised his hand. The waiter seemed very embarrassed and looked at Wes. Wes nodded, and the waiter dared to step forward and hand over the cutlery, then hurried away. After finishing the meal, Wes stood up, paid the bill and left the restaurant, followed closely by the man. Chapter 106 It Turns Out to Be You. Weiss walked along the city's streets, his gaze sweeping around, carefully taking in the city's unique scenery. Finally, passing the last row of buildings, he reached the edge of the dense forest surrounding the city. The man, wordless, followed Weiss closely. Just as the man's toes touched the forest floor, a blazing flame shot from the front, hurtling towards his face. The man reacted quickly, dodging the sudden attack with a sideways movement. "Did you manage to dodge the attack with your speed?" "Pretty agile." Weiss's voice came from directly in front of the man. "Then I'll reduce your speed first." Before he finished speaking, the word "weak" uttered from Weiss's mouth. With this incantation, an invisible force enveloped the man, making his body feel incredibly heavy, and every movement became laborious. Curse magic? How much magic does this guy know? The man was surprised, but even more vigilant. Weiss's attack didn't cease. With his wand in hand, he unleashed a powerful bolt of lightning at the man. Just as the lightning bolt was about to strike its target, it vanished in midair without a trace. Is this his magic? Magic that erases magic. I can't let him get close, or he might erase my magic. Realizing this, Weiss quickly distanced himself from the man and began testing his abilities with different spells. Whether elemental or cursed, all attacks were neutralized by an inexplicable force the moment they reached the man. Weiss's curiosity piqued. I didn't expect to meet such an interesting magician so soon after arriving in this world. Capture him and force the secret of his magic. Weiss's gaze locked on him, like a hawk stalking its prey. Weiss began to try other magic. He summoned a swarm of locusts, which swarmed towards the man. However, this time, the man didn't immediately use his previous spell to erase the insects, but instead began to leap through the trees to avoid them. He didn't use that spell. Was it because he'd already expended too much magic power? But the man's agile movements through the woods showed no signs of exhaustion, either magical or physical. His magic couldn't wipe out the locusts? Or the creatures? Various possibilities raced through Weiss's mind. No, his magic wasn't about erasure, but some kind of special interference. To confirm further, Weiss decided to test it again. Birds abounded in this dense forest, serving as Weiss's ammunition. 10,000 bullets. With Weiss's spell, countless birds transformed into sharp bullets, hurtling towards the man. It seems I've been discovered, the man said, now unable to evade. I didn't intend to use this magic. A chill emanated from the man, and the air suddenly froze. Ice rose. As the man chanted, a gorgeous rose blossomed in the air, its beauty shrouded in a deadly chill. The birds and locusts froze in the cold, enveloped within the icy rose, all signs of life frozen in that moment. Ice shaping magic, and the magic that erases magic, it's her. Weiss had the answer. The man before her was actually Arusha Milkovich, the daughter of the ice sculptor Uru. She held many roles, a member of the Magic Council and an assistant to Jelil, but her true identity was the leader of the 7 families of Purgatory, the strongest direct combat unit under Hades, the leader of the Dark Guild Devil's Heart, and the means to erase Weiss's magic was none other than the legendary Lost Magic Arc of Time. This magic could rewind or forward the state of things, but it was ineffective against creatures other than plants. This was the so-called Arc of Time. She didn't actually erase Weiss's magic, she simply returned this space to time before magic. However, this had no effect on the locusts and birds Weiss had summoned. Magic that manipulates time, how fascinating. Weiss stared directly at Arusha. Having discovered her weakness, Weiss opened the suitcase without hesitation. With a roar, countless scarabs swarmed out, surging towards Arusha like a mighty wave. Faced with such a dense swarm, Arusha's scalp tingled. Ice shape, lotus, crystal-clear ice petals unfolded around Arusha, forming a barrier that tightly protected her within the center of the flower. The scarabs swarmed like a tide, gnawing at the petals. But the ice lotus's defenses were beyond imagination, remaining impenetrable even under such a dense attack. Exploding flame, an orange-red fireball struck the ice lotus, creating a rift. Unexpectedly, the ice lotus healed with astonishing speed, closing the rift in an instant and even freezing some of the scarabs. So ordinary flames are useless. In that case, Weiss waved his wand. Black flames coalesced into a majestic eagle, swooping down with devastating force. Arusha sensed the power of this magic. Simply using the Arc of Time would negate the effects of the fiery blaze. With her will, time rewound, and the fiery blaze vanished as if it had never existed. This scene deepened Weiss's understanding of the wonders of time magic, and his gaze toward Arusha intensified. "Let me see your limits." Weiss waved his wand again, and the sky suddenly filled with countless black arrows condensed from fiery blaze. Each arrow carried immense power. Faced with this overwhelming onslaught, beads of sweat formed on Arusha's forehead. "Too many," she exclaimed inwardly. Activating the Arc of Time consumes a vast amount of magic power, especially when faced with such powerful magic. The consumption multiplied exponentially. Arusha was born with exceptionally powerful magic power, which was the reason she was able to master the Arc of Time. She wasn't afraid to compete with Weiss in magic power consumption. Meanwhile, Weiss had just absorbed the energy of the Philosopher's Stone, doubling his total magical power. Within his body lay a vast amount of energy, yet to be fully absorbed. Whenever he fought, Weiss could feel himself slowly absorbing this energy, growing stronger with each battle. The world was inexhaustible in battle, and with each battle, Weiss grew stronger. Chapter 107 Landing on the Island. With a wave of her hand, Weiss unleashed a shower of black arrows like a meteor shower, their destructive power enough to annihilate anything that dared stand in their way. Faced with this onslaught, Arusha swiftly activated Arc of Time. For a mage who mastered time magic, this skill offered a nearly impenetrable defense, provided sufficient mana. And Arusha happened to possess such powerful magic. Arc of Time, rewind. With her incantation, time in this space was rewound half a minute earlier, and all the black arrows vanished as if they had never existed. This scene caused a deep wrinkle to appear on Weiss's forehead, a mountain shape representing confusion and frustration. It seems the only options are to exhaust the opponent's magic power or to deny them time to activate their magic. Weiss considered two possible ways to break through Arusha's defenses. Arusha had only intended to test Weiss's strength, but she hadn't anticipated encountering such a formidable opponent. The opponent's magic power rivals mine. Is this going to be a stalemate? After several rounds of fighting, she realized Weiss's strength was on par with any S-class wizard, and judging by her performance, she wasn't from a legitimate guild. This piqued Arusha's interest in recruiting this powerful warrior. "Hey, what's your name?" Weiss replied with an annoyed look. "It's basic etiquette to introduce yourself before asking someone's name." "I'm sorry," Arusha said with a slight bow, but her tone lacked any apology. "My name is Salody. I apologize for my impulsive behavior." Weiss, seeing the other party's lack of sincerity, prepared to attack again. "Is this guy a battle maniac? Can't he see I'm already trying to make peace?" Arusha felt helpless. She gritted her teeth and tried again. "Stop. I really don't mean you any harm, Weiss, of course, wouldn't believe her. Though Arusha was also a little furious, she knew that if she continued to fight, she would not be able to maintain her transformation magic. If her true identity were revealed, the entire plan would be jeopardized. Well, farewell, Mr. Unknown Mage, she said, pulling out a card and gently waving it. The card instantly transformed into tiny specks of starlight, dissipating into the air. Arusha's body vanished with the starlight. But she secretly vowed to settle the score with Weiss when she had time. Prepared space magic, huh? But you won't escape my grasp. Weiss, seeing Arusha disguised as a middle-aged man, knew that even at this stage, she was still lurking beside Leon, preparing to resurrect the terrifying demon, Delira. Delira was one of the demons created by the dark mage Zareth, recorded in the Book of Zareth. As an undead, calamity demon, it possessed immense power, capable of easily destroying a city in a short period of time. Years ago, when it wreaked havoc on the northern continent's city of Brago, Arusha's mother, Uru, sealed it with absolute freeze, thus quelling the devastation. In other words, if we find Garna Island, we'll find her. Weiss had a clear goal in mind. He retracted the scarab and departed. An hour later, a small team from the council arrived at the scene. The lead investigator surveyed the area, saying, "It's incredible that such a powerful force could be unleashed in this forest." He then began directing the team's investigation. Although the battle had ended over an hour ago, experienced investigators were still able to deduce the strength of the two combatants based on the lingering magical fluctuations and changes in the surrounding environment. Judging from the remaining magical energy, the two individuals involved in the battle were both nearing S rank. One investigator observed carefully, holding a crystal ball for detection. Just then, a frog, walking upright, a special messenger from the council, hurriedly arrived bearing two portraits. "Sir, these are the portraits of those two individuals." It turned out that many residents of Harjan had witnessed the clash between Weiss and Altier, particularly their encounter in the restaurant. This allowed the artist to create incredibly realistic portraits based on the eyewitness accounts. The investigator took the portrait. "We can't rule out the possibility that they used transformation magic," he rubbed his chin, thoughtfully. "In any case, send the portrait and details of the incident back to headquarters. After all, this involves an S-class wizard." After thoroughly clearing the battlefield, the investigator led the council's team out of the forest and continued their mission. Meanwhile, Weiss prepared to head for Garna Island. He inquired about Garna Island at the town's dock, but found that whenever he mentioned the island's name, people reacted strangely. Some immediately changed the subject, while others quickly left, as if mentioning something taboo. "Young man, I advise you not to go." An old, weathered-looking captain paused his work and stared at Weiss with cloudy eyes. "Legend has it that demons dwell on Garna Island, and even the moon is purple. Even the most daring pirates dare not venture near those waters." Finding a crew willing to take him to Garna Island was nearly impossible. As the old captain said, even if he offered a high price, no one would take the risk. So, he changed his strategy. Instead of searching for a ship, he spent some money to purchase a precise route to Garna Island. With this map in hand, Weiss activated his flying car and set off alone. As the flying car neared its destination, Garna Island's distinctive crescent-shaped outline came into clear view. Although rumors of a demon lurked everywhere about the island, to Weiss, these were merely superficial. In the center of the island, within an ancient pyramid-like structure, deep chanting could be heard from afar, the sounds of wizards performing a ritual. A group of mages in purple robes formed a circle, maintaining a complex magic circle. The magic circle cleverly captured and concentrated the moonlight, forming shimmering droplets that fell one by one onto a massive iceberg below. The entire process was imbued with incredible beauty and mystery. Chapter 108 Appearance. Inside the iceberg lies Delira, sealed away at the cost of Yoru's life. She is one of the demons legendary for being created by the dark mage Zareth. Yoru likely never imagined that one of her disciples would attempt to break the seal and release the imprisoned demon. A masked young man stood before the iceberg, gazing at Delira. "It's almost there. Soon, the seal will be completely broken. I'll prove to you, Yoru, I've surpassed you." Though the mask obscured most of his features, the exposed portion revealed his deep, icy blue eyes, a cold gleam. Lord Leon, a shirtless man with a dog-like face appeared before Leon. "A strange maid has landed on the island." Leon dismissed the question with a casual wave of his hand. "Just send them away. These are crucial times, and I must keep a close eye on the situation. Woof, I understand. Leave everything to us, Toby replied respectfully. Meanwhile, Weiss was heading toward the pyramid when he sensed a far richer magical energy here than outside. Is this the influence of the moon drop ritual? Weiss pondered. The moon holds numerous symbolic meanings in mysticism, and for mages, it holds immeasurable power. I wonder if Arusha deliberately revealed this ritual to Leon. Weiss was deeply intrigued by the island's inhabitants. Despite their strange appearance, resembling legendary demons, these islanders lived ordinary fishermen's lives, no different from humans outside, their language and customs largely unchanged. They possessed no extraordinary magical talent. What caused these residents' unusual appearances? Was it the product of some mad mage's experiment? Or the work of a demon playing prank? As Weiss pondered these questions, Toby suddenly leaped out of the nearby bushes, blocking his path. Stop, stranger. No passage. Toby bared his fangs, a threatening gesture. Kobold, Wes couldn't help but blurt out, seeing Toby's unusual appearance. Asshole, Toby retorted, spitting. I'm not a kobold. I just like dogs. Dogs are man's truest friends. Toby seemed lost in his own world, talking non-stop. Wes didn't understand his train of thought, thinking, liking dogs doesn't mean I have to turn myself into a dog, right? However, the road ahead was covered in weeds, and the only access was blocked by Toby. Can you please move aside? You're blocking my way. Toby rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Excuse me, he said, moving aside to make way for Wes. Thank you, you're welcome. What the hell? Toby, realizing what he was doing, immediately bared his fangs. What a cunning fellow. He almost tricked me. Wes looked at Toby, feeling a mixture of amusement and tears. Is this guy stupid or naive? Asshole, you'll pay a heavy price for deceiving Master Toby. Toby's face darkened, his nails growing longer and turning a deep green. If even one scratch from my nails will paralyze you, you'll be unable to move. Wes tried to persuade him kindly. I don't have the time to fight you right now. That's not your choice. Toby crossed his arms and charged directly at Wes. His movements were so agile, so fast it was almost impossible to discern them. Despite Toby's aggressive attack, Wes remained motionless. Haha, you've been scared by me, haven't you? Toby laughed triumphantly, stabbing his claws into Wes. Don't worry, I won't kill you. My magic is paralysis, it'll only temporarily render you unconscious. Really? You're quite kind, aren't you? Of course I am. I'm not one to kill indiscriminately. Toby beamed at the compliment, but then his expression suddenly changed. The voice came from behind him. The limbs of Wes, whom he had stabbed, suddenly twisted and stretched, transforming into several strong and flexible vines. These vines bound Toby tightly, one after another. No matter how hard Toby struggled, he could not break free from the tenacious bonds. Damn it, Toby roared angrily, but his voice was muffled by the vines, sounding weak and powerless. Give up. This is my modified Devil's IV. Brute force alone won't break free. Toby crouched on the ground like a worm, struggling to move within the vines. How could this happen? He roared angrily. Asshole. If you have the guts, fight me head-on. What's the point of attacking from behind? Wes ignored Toby's shouting, simply looking at him calmly. Take me to see your boss, don't even think about it. I will never betray Leon, Toby refused flatly. Oh, so your boss's name is Leon, Wes teased condescendingly. Can you tell me more about him, sly fellow? Toby's face turned panicked, sweat dripping down his cheeks, realizing he might have leaked crucial information. Don't even think about getting any information out of me. You're just talking nonsense. Wes turned his gaze deeper into the woods. Besides, it looks like your boss is already here. With a subtle rustle of clothes rubbing against the grass, a masked figure appeared before the two of them. The moment Leon appeared, Toby, regardless of his restraints, cried out, Leon! He desperately scrambled forward until he reached Leon's feet. Wes didn't stop him, but watched silently as it all unfolded. Leon didn't respond immediately, simply watching Wes silently until he reached Toby's side, then reached out and placed a hand on the devil's vine that was entwining Toby. A chill spread from his palm, enveloping the tangled vines. Toby felt the restraints on his body suddenly stiffen, transforming into cold, hard vines. Under Leon's incredibly precise control, the ice didn't touch Toby's body. Feeling the restraints gradually loosen, Toby gathered all his strength. When Leon's cold air completely froze the devil vines, Toby suddenly exerted force, his muscles tensing like springs, and then he yanked away. Crash! With a crisp sound, the frozen devil vines turned into fragments scattered all over the ground, like broken glass. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109 Ice Make. Asshole, Toby's claws crackled with electricity. How dare you underestimate me? I'll show you my true strength. Just as Toby was about to attack, Leon's hand blocked his way. Back off, Toby. Leon's voice was low. You're no match for him. Toby gritted his teeth, his fists clenching. Though he felt extremely resentful, Leon's words were true. So, despite his reluctance, Toby took a step back. Leon stared directly at Weiss standing across from him and asked bluntly, "What is your purpose in coming to Garnet Island?" Weiss made no attempt to hide her motive, but she wasn't completely honest either. "I heard that demons had appeared on this island, so I came here to investigate. I didn't expect to encounter a group of people with nothing but empty pretense." Hearing this, Leon's eyes sharpened, and he said coldly, "If that's the case, you can leave now." For Leon, avoiding unnecessary conflict was the most important thing at the moment. The ritual had reached its most crucial moment, and he couldn't allow any outside forces to interfere. Despite Leon's direct dismissal, Weiss clearly had no intention of leaving. "But I've discovered something even more interesting," he said, pointing to a towering pyramid nearby. "Some mysterious ritual is taking place there, concentrating the moonlight." Before he could finish his words, a chill suddenly filled the air. Then, a gigantic bird made of pure ice crystals descended from the sky, swooping down towards Weiss. Almost instantly, Leon sprang into action. Weiss swung his wand, shattering the birds one by one with a resounding crack. He sighed softly, "You're so impatient. You won't let me finish my words." Leon, however, could trust this unidentified figure before him. He couldn't let him get this information out, or else attract the council and ruin their efforts. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Leon cast a single-handed spell before Weiss could even begin to speak. "Ice form, wolf pack." As Leon's voice fell, over a dozen snow wolves materialized from thin air, each one vivid and lifelike. They formed a formation and charged towards Weiss. Based on his previous battle with Uru, Weiss knew that ordinary fire could not destroy the solid ice formed by ice form magic. Therefore, he chose a more powerful attack method, the fiery spell. He chanted this spell, and streams of black flames burst from his fingertips, enveloping and slowly engulfing the snow wolves that were sprinting towards him. The black flames were incredibly powerful, not only completely incinerating the wolves but also vaporizing them, leaving not even a trace of ash. Witnessing this scene, Leon's expression grew solemn. "I've never seen black flames like this before. He knows ordinary flames won't work on my ice. It seems this guy has indeed fought other ice form mages before." Although surprised, Leon didn't pause. He continued to cast the spell with one hand, gathering his strength once more. Ice form, tiger. This time, a massive, menacing tiger appeared before Weiss. This ice tiger was not only incredibly large, but its strength and speed far surpassed those of the previous wolves. With a single leap, it rushed in front of Weiss, then pounced on him with lightning speed. In the past, even Weiss would have struggled to see such a high-speed attack. But since his body had been strengthened by a mysterious power, his perception had greatly increased. His vision was even sharper than before, allowing him to clearly detect every subtle movement of the ice tiger. Perfect for an experiment, Weiss muttered to himself, concentrating his fierce fire into a black greatsword. Under his powerful magical control, no excess energy leaked. Weiss raised the massive black blade and slashed it across the tiger's forehead. He felt no resistance, as smooth as cutting tofu. The tiger was neatly cut in half, vaporizing before it even hit the ground. Weiss swung the black greatsword again, feeling the impact. Still a little out of place, his movements a bit clumsy. Leon noticed this too. He seemed to be lacking in physical skills. Ice form, Great Eagle. Leon, realizing Weiss's weakness, immediately changed his strategy, creating a multitude of highly maneuverable hawks from ice. These birds swooped down from the sky. Weiss swung his greatsword relentlessly, dispatching each hawk. Despite his significantly enhanced physical fitness, he had never received systematic physical training, relying solely on brute force and speed. Leon commanded the Hawks to form a formation, attacking wave after wave. More and more Hawks broke through the sword net and headed straight for Weiss. It seems improving physical skills isn't something that can be achieved overnight. Just as the Hawks were about to close in, Weiss released his great sword. The black sword landed, instantly rising into the air and transforming into a black fire tornado that engulfed the Hawks in the sky. Then, with a wave of his hand, Weiss sent the fire tornado swirling towards Leon. "Get out of the way, Leon," Toby watched with trepidation. He could see that the black flames were severely counteracting Leon's ice-shaped magic, so he shouted anxiously. "You can't get out of the way." Leon knew his magic was countered, but the pyramid ruins lay not far behind him. If he dodged, the ruins would be exposed to Weiss's attack, and he would not allow the ritual to be disrupted. Leon channeled his magic power, making a rare use of his hands. Ice-shaped phoenix, as he chanted, a chill filled the air, and the phoenix flapped its wings, resolutely swooping down towards the fire tornado, blocking it. Weiss increased his magic output. The fire tornado grew stronger, and the phoenix retreated step by step. Sweat dripped from Leon's forehead. Although his magic power was inferior to Weiss's, Leon refused to give up. He mobilized all his magic power, and the ice phoenix gradually withstood the fire tornado's attack. Our chance, Toby seized the opportunity and attacked Weiss, unleashing his ultimate move, Electric Claw. Without even a glance, Weiss dodged the blow with a sideways motion. Weiss's right foot hooked Toby's ankle, sending Toby stumbling to the ground. Ice form, Great Ape. Leon seized the moment Weiss pulled away and summoned the massive ice ape again. It pounded its chest, and a fist several times larger than Weiss's slammed down from above. Please subscribe. Chapter 110, Bluff. Just as the blow was about to strike Wes, he used apparition to dodge. The giant ape's fist pounded the ground, missing Wes but forcing him back. The giant ape reached out, scooped up Toby, and leaped back to Leon's side. Leon cautiously searched for Wes. "I mean no harm," a calm voice suddenly rang from behind Leon. Wes had somehow circled behind him. How did he get behind me? He must have used space magic. Leon felt a sense of unease. The enemy not only possessed the black flames that could counter his own power, but also mastered space magic. This meant they had complete control, putting him at a disadvantage. Despite his confidence, Leon was not one to act rashly. He knew he couldn't stop Wes alone. So, he prepared to send a signal to summon his companions for support. However, his movements were so obvious that Wes immediately noticed. To demonstrate his sincerity, Wes waved his hand gently, and the fire tornado that had been swirling around him instantly dissipated into thin air, vanishing into nothingness. This scene shocked both Leon and Toby. Facing their confusion and alarm, Wes simply shrugged, offering a carefree smile. "Like I said, I mean no harm." Leon stared at Wes, trying to discern any flaws in his words. "Who are you?" he inquired again warily. "Just a curious magician," Wes replied casually. Even though Wes had dispelled the magic and made his intentions clear, the cautious Leon remained vigilant. He didn't dispel the magical wards surrounding him, and the two ice creatures, a massive ice phoenix and a burly ice ape, still stood silently on either side of him, ready to respond to any potential danger. Leon looked at Wes with suspicion, still unconvinced. If Wes learned they had broken the seal on Delira, the consequences would be disastrous. Weiss seemed to see through his concerns, smiled, and asked, "Are you Yuru's disciple?" Leon's heartbeat suddenly accelerated, and he immediately asked Weiss, "How do you know? This level of ice-shaping magic is only mastered by Yuru, the one who sealed Delira." It is said that two young men trained with her in magic back then. One of them was Gray from Fairy Tale, and the other must be you. Leon was surprised that Weiss knew this history, and for a moment he was lost in memories. His mind flashed back to the warm and challenging times he had spent training with Yuru. Yuru's kind smile and the countless days and nights he spent with the Gray were deeply missed. Yuru, Gray, hearing these two familiar names, Leon was transported back to those carefree days. Weiss noticed that Leon's eyes had softened considerably, and he began to spin a story. It seems that those whose homes were destroyed by Delira have been searching for a way to kill it once and for all. Although they've been very cautious, I've managed to get some information. I don't want to miss out on something this interesting, Weiss said with a hint of sarcasm. Yuru, possessing the power of one of the 10 holy magi, paid the price with his life to seal the devastating deal, and these people actually want to kill this demon. Haha. Weiss, knowing the subsequent plot, thought their plan was child's play. They'd use the moon drop to break the seal, and then they'd actually have Leon challenge Delia in a one-on-one due to Leon's belief that he was stronger than Yuru. Wes couldn't help but complain in his heart, if you're sick, go see a doctor. Paranoia is a disease, too, Leon. Hearing the implication in Wes's words, seethed with rage, his fists clenched until his knuckles turned white. Asshole, stop looking down on me. Leon, like a middle school boy, slapped his chest and shouted, my strength has surpassed Yuru. I'll take on any demon Yuru can't handle. That's right, Wolf, Toby chimed in. Leon's quite formidable. Really, Wes said, I don't believe it. After all, he can't even handle a nobody like me. Toby whipped his head around and roared, asshole, I'm going to kill you. His teeth clattered, as if he were about to pounce on Wes. Leon, however, remained surprisingly calm. Indeed, I can't handle you, Leon. Toby stared at him in surprise, not expecting the proud Leon to say such a thing. Leon changed the subject, his tone tinged with seriousness. I've never heard of you, but your power is truly rare. Weiss shrugged, muttering to himself, you're just too ignorant. Your black flame is a legendary lost magic, that's why it's so powerful, Leon explained seriously, as if trying to convince himself and the others around him. So that's how it is. Toby, a skilled supporting actor, never let Leon's words slip. He nodded. Yes, this power is indeed very rare. Weiss's eyes flickered slightly. His strength was enough to attract the attention of these people, but he didn't want to explain the reasoning. You don't seem to be a mage from the Guild of Light, Leon asked tentatively. I'm not affiliated with any guild, nor am I a member of the Magic Council, Weiss emphasized again. I'm just an ordinary mage obsessed with magic. Really? Leon was skeptical. He looked at Weiss again, but Weiss's eyes were calm and composed, without a single flaw. Weiss suddenly proposed a plan. You can't do anything to me, and you don't want to let me go and reveal the secrets here. How about letting me join you? Toby was the first to stand up and object. What a joke. Who wants to accept a guy with unknown origins? You have all seen my strength. With my help, your plan can go smoothly. Leon was silent for a moment, weighing the pros and cons in his mind. Weiss's strength should not be underestimated. If they can win over such a powerful ally, it will undoubtedly be of great help to their plan. But on the other hand, he also knows that the motives of this stranger are unclear, and accepting him rashly may bring unpredictable risks. Even without you, our plan will succeed, Leon finally spoke after thinking for a moment, but he also clearly felt his inner hesitation. Will it really go smoothly? I heard that the residents here have issued a commission to Fairy Tale, and the rank is S. Chapter 111, Successful Deception. Are you telling the truth? Leon asked. I don't need to lie about something like this. Weiss's words only served to convince Leon. Will Fairy Tale get involved? It seems we have to take precautions, Leon said with some concern. No S-class wizard is easy to deal with. If their resurrection of Delia were exposed, it would undoubtedly draw the full force of the council. Not only would the plan fail, but they would all be declared dark mages by the council. Most of those involved in this plan were pitiful people whose homes were destroyed by Delia. They wanted revenge but lacked the strength. So they sought out Leon, believing that as Yoru's disciples, they could kill Delia. Leon didn't want them to be imprisoned, and even more so, he didn't want to see their hopes dashed. Damn it, Leon thought, still a teenager. Faced with such a complex situation, he was at a loss for a solution. Weiss easily saw through his hesitation. Weiss spoke up just in time. I can help. If you and I join forces, even an S-class wizard won't be able to escape. Leon looked up and stared at Weiss, a mixture of emotions welling up in his heart. While Weiss's words sounded like a solution, teaming up with such a powerful and unpredictable opponent was undoubtedly a dangerous undertaking. However, the situation at hand seemed to leave no better option. Leon, he seems to have a point. Toby's voice was tinged with uncertainty, knowing that his own strength was limited and that he couldn't help Leon much. Leon still insisted, no need. With you, Eureka, and Jerry's help, I wouldn't fear even the entire Fairy Tale team. Toby's heartfelt words moved him to tears, and he choked out, Leon, you're amazing. Even if it means risking my life, I'll stop Fairy Tale. Did you hear me? We don't need help from someone like you who came from nowhere, Toby said, wiping tears from his eyes and waving his hand, trying to shoo Weiss away. Weiss's gaze fell on Leon, waiting for him to speak. Only Leon could make the final decision. You can stay, but you'll have to accept our surveillance. It was a difficult decision Leon reached after weighing the pros and cons. No problem, Weiss readily agreed. Surveillance was meaningless to him. If he truly desired to escape, it would be easy. Leon, Toby whispered, leaning into Leon's ear, this guy doesn't look like a good person. Do we really want him to stay? Leon nodded slightly. Of course I know that. But it's too difficult to stop a wizard who can use space magic. It's better to keep him under our watch, so that's how it is, Toby said, suddenly realizing, looking at Leon with admiration. Besides, Leon lowered his voice again, if what he said is true, we can push him ahead when the fairy tale wizards enter the island. That would buy us some time. Leon thought that while this method was crude and ruthless, it was the most effective one at the moment. So that's how it is, Leon, you're really smart, Toby exclaimed in sincere admiration. Only a naive Leon could come up with such a foolproof plan, and only someone like Toby would believe it. Weiss ignored the two men mumbling before him, regardless of their discussions, as long as it achieved his goal. Follow me. Leon and Toby headed towards the ruins, with Weiss following behind. Don't try any tricks, I'll keep an eye on you, Toby warned himself, glaring fiercely at Weiss. Don't let your guard down, who knows what this guy might be up to. Weiss raised his hand to signal his honesty. As long as we can get close to the ruins, the rest will be much easier. Toby, distrustful of him, followed Weiss closely, watching him intently, afraid to miss his every move. Under Leon's guidance, Weiss successfully entered the ruins. As Weiss progressed deeper into the center, the surrounding magic grew increasingly dense. A purple mist filled the air, indicating that the moon magic here was already extremely strong. Finally, he arrived at a wide-open space, where a group of purple-robed mages were diligently maintaining a complex magic circle. The circle appeared incredibly complex, with countless runes and lines interwoven into an intricate pattern. Each rune shimmered faintly, emitting a soft blue glow. At the circle's core, moonlight converged into a brilliant beam. All the moonlight from the sea was gathered together, refined and condensed, ultimately transforming into a drop of purple liquid. This drop slowly dripped onto an iceberg below, emitting a faint glow. Ripples rippled across the iceberg's surface, accompanied by subtle sounds. Despite the apparent complexity of the magic circle, the purple-robed mages' movements were remarkably coordinated. Their hands traced intricate patterns in the air, constantly adjusting the magic circle's operation. With each gesture, the runes and lines trembled slightly, as if the entire magic circle were a living organism. Weiss observed all this with curiosity, trying to understand how the magic circle operated. However, he still lacked a clear understanding of the magic of this world, only grasping the superficial. He could sense the powerful magical energy contained within the moondrop, arguably a prime ingredient for potions. Weiss's gaze was fixed on the complex magic circle, secretly plotting how to master this powerful magic. If he could master this magic circle, he would be able to collect moondrops from different worlds, which would undoubtedly be a huge boost to his future. However, his concentration seemed like a daze to Toby. So, you've never seen anything like this? Toby raised his head proudly, looking at Weiss with disdain, as if he were a country bumpkin. Weiss ignored Toby's sarcasm and continued to stare at the iceberg below. It was covered in a thin layer of frost. He pointed at it and asked, "What's that?" "That's Delira, the demon that once wreaked havoc in the north." "That's our target," Leon replied. Weiss understood their goal. However, transporting Delira from the north to this island was no easy task. This required avoiding the council and the various wizard guilds, something Leon and his group couldn't accomplish. Chapter 112 The Pretender. This must have been caused by the meddling of Ultier, or perhaps by Hades, the former second-generation leader of the Devil's Heart Guild and former fairy tale leader. The Devil's Heart Guild's long-held goal is to awaken the legendary Dark Mage Zareth and harness his unparalleled power to rule the world. Hades is adamant, convinced that Zareth's power can achieve their ambitions. To achieve this goal, they will resort to any means necessary, even attempting to resurrect the powerful ancient demon Delira. This is just one small step in their larger plan. Leon is completely oblivious to all this. He believes he is the mastermind behind this incident, orchestrating it all with his own wisdom and strength. Little does he know, he is merely a pawn being manipulated by Hades and his men, completely in the dark. Weiss, the onlooker, finds this naivete both amusing and sympathetic. Weiss is not one to meddle in other people's affairs. As long as he achieves his own goals, he cares little about the fate of others. Therefore, even knowing the truth, he chooses to remain silent. At that moment, two of Leon's men, Jerry and Yuka, approached from a distance. Jerry was still a little girl, her face still childish. Yuka, on the other hand, was a mature young man, his eyes gleaming with a certain shrewdness. Seeing Weiss standing nearby, Jerry immediately asked, "Who is he?" Her voice was exceptionally clear and crisp. "Jerry, Yuka, this is Weiss," Leon introduced briefly. "He's new here, so you should show him around." Jerry pouted, unimpressed by the arrangement. "I just want to stay with Leon," she muttered, completely oblivious to the hint in Leon's words. Yuka, by contrast, seemed more experienced. He nodded, understanding Leon's meaning. "Leave this to me." For the next few days, Weiss remained obediently within the ruins, not leaving. His entire focus was on the magic circle. Every day, he spent countless hours studying the ancient runes and patterns, trying to discern the patterns within them. Yuka, on the other hand, was deeply frustrated. She had expected Wes to move around so she could better monitor him, but she hadn't expected him to be so absorbed in studying the magic circle. Yuka could only watch helplessly from the sidelines, watching Wes toiling away, muttering to herself, "What the hell is this guy up to? You two, take over for me for a while. I've been going moldy these past few days." Yuka's roar echoed in the air, but Jerry and Toby ignored her, continuing their respective tasks. Jerry, feeding her giant rat, casually said, "Let him take over when Saludi gets back." Why did Saludi take so long out shopping this time? He's almost out of snacks, Yuka's words intensified. Baring his fangs, he nearly exploded. "Can't you two share the burden for me?" Jerry simply shrugged and continued tending to her pets, while Toby, completely absorbed in his own world, paid no attention to Yuka's complaints. As they argued, a small boat quietly docked at a secluded harbor. A middle-aged man with an unremarkable face emerged. This man was actually Arusha, disguised through transformation magic. Arusha stretched and muttered, "Oh my goodness. The Tower of Paradise, the Council, and Karna Island are all piled on me. Is the president trying to tire me out?" She sighed and continued, "I don't know how to clone myself, so I can't act as two. But thankfully, Delira's seal is only a fraction left." Arusha composed herself, scanning her surroundings to make sure no one noticed her presence. She took a deep breath, completely immersing herself in the role of Saludi. She adjusted her pace and expression, ensuring every detail was identical to Saludi's, before heading towards the ruins. Thankfully, everything is going according to plan. Arusha's mood brightened slightly at the thought. She reached the center of the ruins, instructed her men to retrieve supplies, and then quickly went to check on Delira. After confirming everything was under control, she turned and walked towards Jerry, Yuka, and Toby. "Jerry, Yuka, Toby, the things you asked me to buy are here." Jerry immediately came bounding over. "Thank you so much, Salud." Toby eagerly came over, complaining, "Thanks, this place is so desolate. I've finished all my magazines." Yuka, as if he had found a savior, said, "Salud, keep an eye on this guy while I go get some fresh air." Without waiting for Arusha's response, he rushed out of the ruins. What did she mean? Arusha had just returned to the center of the ruins, bewildered by Yuka's sudden action. Before she could react, Weiss's voice reached her. "Hello, Salud." Arusha whipped her head around, her pupils constricting. "You? Why are you here?" Her hands clenched into fists, and she instinctively wanted to attack Weiss, but the sheer number of people around her made her stop. Toby looked at the two curiously and asked, "Do you know each other?" "We met once in Harjan," Weiss said with a fake smile. "We had a big fight." Toby looked at Arusha in disbelief. "Salusha and you had a big fight?" "Salusha isn't really good at fighting, really." Weiss raised an eyebrow, her tone tinged with defiance. "His ice?" "Shut up," Arusha shouted, panicking. She couldn't let Weiss reveal more about her true identity. Jerry also stopped what she was doing. "What are you talking about? Salusha, did you really fight him?" Toby and Jerry were startled by Arusha's sudden outburst. In their eyes, Arusha, disguised as Salusha, had always been a mature and steady middle-aged man, never losing his temper. "What I mean is, leave this guy to me. I'll keep a close eye on him." Arusha quickly adjusted her tone, trying to calm the tension. Toby and Jerry exchanged a glance. Although they felt that Salody was a bit strange today, they still trusted him very much. In that case, I'll leave this guy to you, Toby said, and Jerry nodded in agreement. The two naive people were easily fooled by Arusha. They continued with their work as if the previous incident had never happened. Arusha breathed a sigh of relief. She walked over to Weiss and whispered, "You'd better stop talking nonsense, or I will be polite." Chapter 113 Equivalent Exchange. "Why are you being so rude?" Weiss said confidently. "Fight me again and reveal your knowledge of ice-shape magic. I've heard you're just a weak mage. Do you want to explain to Leon why you're hiding your abilities?" Arusha gnashed her teeth in anger, but couldn't show it. "Damn it. Who the hell are you? What do you know? This is none of your business. No matter who you are or what your motives are, stay out of my business. You won't be able to afford to ruin our cause," Arusha threatened Weiss again, furious. Weiss clearly wasn't buying it. It seems you have an organization behind you. You've only made me more interested." He feigned sudden realization and continued, "I was wondering how these brats could possibly have transported Delia to this island. This island and the ritual to collect the moon drops were all prepared long ago by your organization." Arusha's pupils constricted, her anger instantly turning to shock. "Who the hell is this guy? But don't worry, I'm not one for gossip. I won't stop something as interesting as resurrecting Delia." But Weiss paused deliberately. Arusha's heart immediately went off. "Surely, this guy has other motives. When you fought me, in addition to the ice-shape magic, you also used another kind of magic," Weiss said slowly. "That was the lost magic Arc of Time, correct?" Arusha took a few steps back in shock, nearly stumbling. "How did you know?" "Lost magic is so called because its practice is so difficult that its successors become increasingly rare with each passing generation. Even now, almost all mages have never even heard of it." In Arusha's eyes, Weiss became even more mysterious. "Tell me how to practice the Arc of Time, and I'll keep it a secret for you," Weiss said, seizing the opportunity to offer a deal. "Dream on," Arusha almost immediately refused. "I see. Then I'll just have to tell Leon about your ice-shaping magic. I think he'll be happy to have you as a fellow disciple," Weiss said, making a move to leave. "Asshole, stop right there," Arusha's panic betrayed her true tone. "It's a young lady," Weiss said, but she didn't stop. "I have to tell Leon the good news, asshole. I told you to stop." Arusha waved her hand angrily, and a wall of ice instantly rose, blocking Weiss's path. The air temperature plummeted, and a thin layer of frost coated the surrounding grass and trees. Weiss stopped, turned around, and smiled. "Is this really okay? Using ice-shaping magic here, aren't you afraid of attracting Leon's attention?" Arusha realized her impulsiveness and chanted a spell. With a flick of her hands, the ice wall melted away, as if it had never existed. The power of the Arc of Time quietly erased all traces of the ice wall. "No matter how many times I see it, the Arc of Time never ceases to amaze." Weiss's eyes fixed on Arusha's every move, silently lamenting that she lacked the Sharingan's ability to replicate it. His praise, to Arusha, sounded like naked defiance. "You bastard," she raged, ready to teach the ignorant brat a lesson. Just then, Leon hurried over. "What's going on? Why are there fluctuations of ice-shaping magic here?" Arusha quickly adjusted her expression, feigning awe. "The drop of the moon is working. This is a sign that the seal on Ur will soon be lifted. Leon-sama, your long-cherished wish is about to come true." Leon was overwhelmed with excitement. "Excellent. All this is thanks to your efforts, Salody." "No. It's all thanks to your wise leadership, sir," Arusha said with a humble smile. Weiss watched her unblushingly praise Leon, and she couldn't help but admire her. No wonder she'd been able to lurk around Leon for so long, even fooling Jelil, one of the 10 holy magi. If he hadn't been familiar with the plot, he might have been fooled by this cunning woman. "Keep an eye on this guy, don't let him ruin our plans," Leon instructed, then left, unsuspecting Arusha's true intentions. As Leon walked away, Arusha finally felt relieved. "How cruel. Leon trusts you so much." "Shut up," Arusha's face darkened again. "I'll never give you the Arc of Time. You're not even qualified to master it." Really, Weiss knew it was nearly impossible to obtain the Arc of Time, so he settled for the next best thing. "Then I'll collect the magic circle for the moon drop." Arusha felt a sense of relief at this, believing she could still fulfill that request. But she also had a cunning plan in mind. "Since this guy wants something, I might as well take this opportunity to take advantage of him." However, Weiss wasn't about to play any tricks with Arusha. Give it to me right now. If I find out the magic circle you gave me is fake, or has been tampered with in any way, I'll fight, you bastard. Arusha clenched her fists in anger, wanting to punch Weiss's arrogant face. But she didn't dare take the risk. Arusha knew Weiss's strength well, and a battle against him would require her to give it her all. Her personal safety wasn't important to her, but the plan was at a critical juncture, and any mistake could lead to total failure. Therefore, Arusha had to swallow her anger for the time being. Here you are. Arusha suppressed her anger, tossing Weiss an ancient book containing the magic circle Moondrop. Weiss took the book and carefully examined its contents. Over the past few days, he had closely monitored the operation of the magic circle and had a thorough understanding of its key components. After verifying several key points, he confirmed the authenticity of the magic circle. Arusha didn't have enough time to tamper with the information. After confirming that it was correct, Weiss nodded with satisfaction and put the book away. Excellent, we won't have any conflicts for now. Chapter 114 Trio. Arusha had never felt so aggrieved, her fury nearly overwhelming her. She resolved to report this incident to the guild leader. I hope you'll keep your promise, she said, turning and leaving. Weiss had kept his promise and not revealed Arusha's secret to Leon. He devoted himself to studying the magic circle, observing the purple-robed figures as they operated. The seal on Arusha gradually weakened, and the day of Delare's release drew near. One day, a precious moondrop condensed from the magic circle. After observing and studying it for a while, Weiss discovered that the moondrop had far more power than simply removing the seal. It could also negate the negative effects of most magic, and once crafted into a potion, it became an invaluable healing elixir. However, collecting the moondrop was an extremely difficult process, requiring precise manipulation and a significant amount of time. This island, nicknamed Moon Island, was said to be the place where the moon goddess once descended. Therefore, collecting moondrops here is more efficient, but even so, only a few drops can be collected each day. Weiss has mastered the method of setting up a magic circle and is now considering which world to set it in. Not in the Marvel world, there are too many powerful people there, but maybe in the world of Harry Potter or Pirates of the Caribbean. Just as Weiss was thinking, Yuka suddenly appeared beside him. What's going on? Weiss's thoughts were interrupted, and he seemed a little impatient. The fairy tale wizards have arrived on the island, Yuka said anxiously. They've defeated Jerry and Toby, so soon. Weiss stood up and dusted himself off. Don't worry, I'll keep my promise. Then hurry up, those guys are almost here, and Leon asked you to stop them, Yuka urged. Don't worry, I won't let you down. I also want to see the might of a fairy tale wizard. Don't try any tricks, Yuka warned. I'll keep an eye on you, as you wish. The two quickly left the ruins, and soon saw two men, a woman, and a cat appearing ahead. That's them, Yuka pointed at the three of them. They're the fairy tale wizards. One of them was a cheerful young man with short cherry-colored hair and droopy eyes. He wore a black short coat with tights and sandals, a black wristband on his left wrist, and a white plaid scarf around his neck. He spoke directly. You're the ones who turned the villagers into demons. Turn them back. Flames shot out of his mouth. Is this Natsu? He's worthy of being the protagonist, full of energy. So the shirtless boy is Gray, and the busty blonde is Lucy. The trio was so distinctive that, despite the slight differences between the three-dimensional and two-dimensional worlds, Weiss recognized them instantly. What are you standing there for? Stop them, Yuka urged. Leave this boy and girl to me, Weiss said, pointing at Natsu and Lucy. Having already witnessed ice form magic, he couldn't help but be intrigued by the dragon slayer magic that adorned the story. He wanted to see for himself how powerful it truly was. Okay, then leave this exhibitionist to me, asshole. I'm not an exhibitionist, Gray retorted, his face flushing red. I just didn't know when all my clothes disappeared. Isn't that what exhibitionism is, you immoral brat? Yuka taunted mercilessly. Is all fairy tale made up of weirdos like you, asshole? Gray clenched his right fist and placed it on the palm of his left. Ice form hammer. A massive ice hammer condensed from the sky, carrying a biting chill, and descended directly towards Yuka. Gray was determined to finish off this outspoken fellow in one fell swoop. A green barrier materialized above Yuka's head. Though only a thin veil of light, it firmly intercepted the heavy ice hammer, a resounding clash. Using the same magic as Lord Leon, Yuka gazed at Gray in surprise. Leon. Gray paused at the name. Leon is also on this island, HMPH. Yuka realized his slip, his face darkening slightly. He snorted coldly, and said no more. Gray roared, I'll pry your mouth open and make you answer my questions honestly. How shameless. Yuka sneered, spun nimbly, and vanished into the dense forest. Stop, Gray shouted, immediately giving chase. Gray, don't fall for this, Lucy's voice came from behind. We don't know how many enemies there are. However, Gray had already vanished into the depths of the woods, leaving only the sound of hurried footsteps. Lucy sighed helplessly and turned to face Weiss. Little girl, are you still in the mood to worry about others? Weiss' fingers gently twirled the wand in her hand. Your opponent is me. Lucy took a deep breath and carefully studied the man in front of her. He was so handsome that it was hard to look away, and the smile in his eyes made her heart beat faster. Lucy couldn't help but mutter to herself, what a handsome guy. I just wonder if he has a girlfriend. She forced a confident smile and tried to intimidate the other person with her words. Handsome man, I urge you to get out of the way. This is the famous fire dragon Natsu. He is not someone that ordinary people can deal with. Yes, Natsu is very powerful. Happy raised his short hand and agreed, his eyes shining with admiration. Ha ha ha. Natsu proudly placed his hands on his hips at the compliment, his chest puffing out even higher. Yes, I'm that powerful. Weiss pointed her wand at Natsu and said provocatively, I know that. I've always wanted to see the famous Dragon Slayer magic. Natsu thought Weiss was just trying to impress him and scratched his head sheepishly. He said I was famous, but Lucy and Happy weren't as relaxed as Natsu. Their expressions grew serious. Lucy quickly assessed the situation in her mind, warily observing Weiss's every move. This guy knows Natsu's strength and yet he's so confident. He must be tough to deal with. Natsu, be careful. Although Happy was usually playful and loved to entertain everyone, he put away his smile and flew to Natsu's shoulder, giving a serious warning. Chapter 115 Fire Dragon. Don't worry, Natsu assured confidently, patting his chest. I won't lose to anyone. He took a deep breath, his belly sinking for a moment before his chest swelled. Dragon fire gathered within him, then a powerful flame erupted from his lungs. This was his most prized move, Fire Dragon's Roar. With a roar, a fiery stream of red and golden flame erupted from Natsu's mouth, resembling the roar of a real fire dragon. The powerful gust of air shook the nearby trees, causing their leaves to tremble in the fierce wind. The air grew dry and scorching, and in the blink of an eye, the scorching fireball reached Weiss. Facing the incoming fireball, Weiss opened her right hand, and the fierce flames gathered obediently in her palm, gradually concentrating into a dazzling golden ball, radiant like a tiny sun. Lucy and Happy stared in amazement, barely daring to believe what they were witnessing. Natsu's ultimate move was caught. Lucy's voice faltered in disbelief. Happy had grown up with Natsu, and he'd never seen anyone take such a move like that. His round eyes widened, his mouth agape for a moment. Weiss sensed the power of the golden ball in her hand. It's more powerful than ordinary fire magic, but that's all. Before she finished speaking, Weiss hurled the fireball at Natsu. Natsu, unflinching, charged head-on. The fireball exploded, sending flames soaring into the air, only to be absorbed into Natsu's stomach. Haha, idiot, Lucy scoffed. Natsu's Dragon Slayer magic has the ability to consume fire to restore his mana. Weiss knew this, but she wanted to witness it firsthand. After devouring all the flames, Natsu wiped his mouth and exclaimed excitedly, interesting. I've never met a wizard like you. His emotions were boiling, his fighting spirit surging. His droopy eyes made him look even more menacing. How does it taste? Weiss suddenly asked. What? Natsu was momentarily confused. I'm asking, how does your own flame taste? Although Weiss's question sounded absurd, and the two were still at odds, it still left Natsu speechless. The stubborn Natsu actually thought for a moment and replied, it tastes like pumpkin soup, very warm, stupid. This guy's an enemy, how dare you start chatting? Lucy bared her fangs in frustration. Natsu finally realized what was happening. That was a close call. I almost got tricked. What a treacherous guy. Weiss was speechless. Natsu refocused his attention and unleashed Dragon Roar again, this time with even greater force and speed. Facing the incoming attack, Weiss swung her wand. Fire God, clear the way. A flash of light, like a sharp sword, cleaved Fire Dragon's roar in two, leaving Weiss unharmed. Are you naive to use the same technique against me, young man, or is this the extent of so-called Dragon Slayer magic? Weiss's words completely enraged Natsu. "Don't you dare insult Igneel. Dragon Slayer magic is the most powerful magic," Natsu roared, his body erupting in flames, his hair moving without a gust of wind. "Natsu, calm down. The enemy is deliberately provoking you," Lucy warned him anxiously. "It's useless," Happy stopped Lucy. "Once Natsu gets carried away, no one can stop him. And the opponent is also a fire mage. Natsu won't lose." Happy always had confidence in Natsu. At the same time, Natsu's limbs were engulfed in flames, and he launched a powerful propulsion backward, granting him immense speed. In the blink of an eye, he was on Weiss's left. Fire Dragon's elbow. Natsu, using the recoil of the flames emanating from his elbow, thrust his right elbow fiercely into Weiss's ribs. A hit like that would have completely neutralized Weiss's fighting ability. Just as Natsu's elbow was about to make contact, Weiss suddenly vanished. Natsu's strike missed, and he nearly fell to the ground. "What's going on? Why did that person suddenly vanish?" Lucy shook Happy vigorously, as if trying to shake the answer out of him. Happy was like a rag doll in her hands, but he remained calm. "Lucy, stop shaking me. I'm going to throw up if you keep shaking me," Happy pleaded helplessly. Lucy immediately stopped, but her face remained etched with worry. "Happy, do you think Natsu is going to be okay? It's teleportation. That wizard has mastered space magic," Happy explained. Although he didn't possess a strong fighting ability, his experience growing up in the Fairy Tale Guild had given him a wide variety of magic and a unique perspective. "But don't worry. He specializes in fire magic, so he's no match for Natsu," Happy remained confident. Hearing this, Lucy felt reassured, though she remained focused on the battle area. Natsu's nose was constantly scanning the air, trying to detect any trace of Weiss. His sense of smell was far superior to that of an average person, but at that moment, he could detect nothing. "This guy has used magic to eliminate the scent." Weiss was currently using the disillusionment charm, blending completely into the air. As long as she made no sound or movement, even Natsu wouldn't be able to detect her presence. The elbow strike had nearly hit him, but he had fortunately used apparition in time to dodge, so now it's my turn. Weiss raised her wand, and the air around them seemed to freeze. "Avada, eat the big melon," he whispered, and a beam of green light shot straight at Natsu's back. Natsu remained undeterred by the sudden attack. He instinctively sensed danger, his body reacting instantly, jerking to the side to avoid a deadly green light. The light brushed against Natsu's cloak, leaving a scorch mark on the ground. Realizing his enemy was behind him, Natsu spun around. "Fire Dragon's roar," Natsu roared, thrusting his palms forward. A ball of blazing flame erupted from his mouth, creating a massive blast wave that spread outward. With this attack, Natsu deliberately widened the range, hoping to force any enemy hiding in the shadows to reveal themselves. Weiss was forced to dodge the surging flames, and a faint, transparent silhouette appeared in the air. Even for the experienced Natsu, that was enough. "I've got you, you bastard," Natsu swung his flaming fist, ready to deliver the fatal blow. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116 The Temptation of the Demon Island Girl. Beast-like intuition is really amazing. Natsu did not reply, but launched another fierce attack. Fire Dragon Sword Horn. Natsu's whole body was wrapped in the flames of the fire dragon, as if he had turned into a real fire dragon, and rushed towards Weiss with his head at high speed. There was a whistling sound in the air, and the flames pulled out a long tail behind him. Weiss immediately read out, "Many obstacles." 5 consecutive invisible barriers appeared between the two. Natsu felt the air resistance in front suddenly increase. Despite this, he still gritted his teeth and rushed forward. After breaking through the first 3 barriers in succession, Natsu's speed slowed down significantly. When he hit the 4th barrier, he was already exhausted, and the whole person was stuck in the air, unable to move forward at all. 10,000 bullets fired. Wes seized the opportunity, and under his control, the rebel in the forest turned into powerful cannonballs, shooting towards Natsu. Natsu quickly adjusted his posture and used his fists and feet to knock away the oncoming rebel one by one. When encountering larger rocks, he would simply melt them with flames, The wizards here are very good at fists and feet. I have to learn from them and not waste this strengthened body. But now the important thing is to get rid of Natsu first. Dragon slaying magic is indeed very powerful, but Natsu is currently unable to fully exert its full strength. After several rounds of confrontation, Weiss has roughly figured out Natsu's strength and is unwilling to waste any more time. Gravity oppression. As soon as Weiss finished speaking, Natsu felt like his body was being pressed down by a huge mountain. Under his control, the rubble around him rained down on him like a torrential rain. Due to his greatly reduced speed, Natsu could no longer dodge as easily as before. Many of the rubble hit his body directly, cutting into his body and causing blood to flow out. Damn it. In this situation, I can't even move. Natsu was extremely anxious, but there was nothing he could do. If he couldn't find a way to break the gravity pressure, he would only become more and more passive. Happy, what should we do? Seeing Natsu at a disadvantage, Lucy was a little terrified. It's okay. This little injury is nothing to Natsu. You just said that guy was just a fire magician, but look at how many kinds of magic he's using now. Lucy began to shake Happy again. Lucy Happy replied with a grim expression, I'm about to vomit. I won't believe you. Find a way to help Natsu quickly. Lucy almost cried. Wow, Happy's eyes turned into mosquito-repellent eyes, and finally he couldn't hold it in and vomited. Hey, why did you really vomit? Lucy quickly hid aside, but still did not forget to urge, hurry up and find a way to help Natsu. Lucy Happy's tongue had not yet straightened. My name is Lucy, Lucy corrected angrily. Lucy, you are also a wizard of fairy tale, Happy reminded after barely standing firm. We can't let our companions fight alone. Lucy reacted suddenly after hearing this. Yes, I am also a qualified wizard. She then took out a golden key, which represents Taurus. Obey my call, Talus. Lucy called out loudly and inserted the key into the void. The starlight shone instantly, and a huge humanoid cow appeared on the battlefield, with a huge double-edged axe fixed to its back with a leather belt. Taurus, Taros is here. Taros' voice rang out like thunder, and he swung the huge axe in his hand, and the air around him was whistling. As soon as he appeared, he stared at Lucy with lustful eyes. Long time no see, Lucy. Your figure is still as great as ever. Taros, go help Natsu. Lucy ignored him and gave the order directly. Yes, sir. Taros immediately became serious. Holding the heavy battle axe in both hands, he jumped into the air, and chopped hard at Weiss's head. However, Taros' movements were too big and his intentions were too obvious, so Weiss dodged it easily. Celestial spirits? What strange creatures. I really want to catch one and study it if I have the chance. Weiss stared at Taros with an extremely aggressive look. Taros' hair stood on end. What kind of perverted magician is this guy? He actually covets my perfect body. Due to Taros' sudden attack, Weiss had to interrupt his attack on Natsu, giving Natsu a precious chance to breathe. Natsu quickly wiped the blood off his face and walked to Taros. Thanks, cow, Natsu said. Asshole. I am Taros, a Taurus of the zodiac, not an ordinary cow. Taros obviously did not have such a good temper towards men. Alright, let's end the battle quickly, Natsu said while checking his injuries. Although he was a little embarrassed, he did not lose his fighting spirit. Be careful with this guy, he knows many kinds of magic. You are very strong, right? Help me to hold him back. Damn brat, I'm not your celestial spirit, don't order me around. Before Talus could finish his words, Natsu had already launched an attack from Weiss's left side. Talus, please follow Natsu's instructions. Lucy clasped her hands together and begged, defeat that guy, and I'll buy you the latest magic girl. Two streams of white mist spurted out of Talus' nostrils, and then he responded loudly, it's a deal. He tensed his leg muscles and kicked hard, creating a deep pit in the ground. Talus' speed reached its limit, forming a pincer attack with Natsu and attacking Weiss at the same time. Weiss was like a conductor, his wand drawing tracks in the air. The ground bulged, and the thick tree roots turned into whips and lashed at Natsu and Talus. Natsu was agile, like a nimble monkey. He jumped lightly between the tree roots, dodging every attack. Whenever the tree roots approached, he could react quickly, cleverly avoiding the danger and looking for opportunities to counterattack. Talus seemed to have endless brute force, and he swung the double-edged axe tightly. The tree roots that were originally used to restrain them were broken by Talus's axe and could not pose any threat to him. He was not at all a funny character as described in the comics. Talus, Watch your back, Natsu warned loudly, and at the same time he passed through the gap between the tree roots on the side, preparing to attack from the side. Got it. Taros turned around and chopped off the tree roots that were attacking from behind with an axe. These tree roots are really troublesome. Weiss saw Taros' strength. After all, this is the real world. How could he be chosen by the Star Spirit King to become the Zodiac without some skills? Chapter 117 The Power of Friendship. Garna Island is a tropical rainforest, its forest so dense that the sky is almost invisible. Tree roots seemed endless, constantly attacking Natsu and Talus from all directions. Despite their valiant efforts, they found themselves increasingly distant from Weiss. This won't do, Natsu said, watching the roots attack from ahead. He wrapped his arms in the flames of a fire dragon, and the flames instantly transformed into dragon wings, blazing fiercely. Fire dragon wing strike, Natsu swung his arms, and the flames swept forward like wings, sweeping away the branches and roots that blocked his path. As the flames swept, a clear path finally appeared ahead, and Natsu and Talus finally spotted Weiss. Well done, Talus swung his battle axe, ready to deliver a fatal blow. But then he felt a sharp pain in his ankle. Looking down, he saw a strange thorn had somehow wrapped around his ankle, scratching his skin and causing blood to flow down his ankle. Furthermore, he felt his magic power being drained. Damn it, Talus roared, struggling to break free from the thorns, but they only tightened. The thorns, absorbing his magic, grew rapidly, covering Talus's lower body in the blink of an eye. Natsu, standing beside him, was also in a predicament. Damn it, what the hell is this? Natsu cursed, his palm pierced. Despite the blood, he ignored the pain and removed the thorns from his body. However, after absorbing so much magic power, Natsu gradually felt weak, and every movement seemed to drain his last bit of strength. This was undoubtedly Weiss's fault. He had specially cultivated these thorns. Originally a magical plant from the world of maze rice, after generations of careful cultivation, they were crossed with the devil's ivy from the world of Harry Potter, resulting in this new species. The thorns had become extremely sharp, able to easily pierce the skin of any monster and absorb magic to grow stronger. It was like a parasite, and if not dealt with promptly, it would threaten their lives. Weiss had already scattered the seeds when Talus joined the fray. Natsu and Talus, careless creatures, naturally didn't notice the seeds scattered throughout the forest. They settled on their skin, slowly draining their mana. By the time they realized it, it was too late. Lucy, sorry, I'm running out of mana, Talus said, then vanished, returning to the spirit world. Like the summoned beasts in Naruto, they will return when faced with life-threatening danger. It seems they're signing a pact of equality. Lucy didn't have time to dwell on this. Natsu had no such ability. The thorns continued to drain his mana, threatening to engulf him. Natsu, happy, cried out in worry. Lucy, find a way to save Natsu. Get the maid out. Lucy watched Natsu with pity, his skin covered in black vines, each one greedily devouring his life force. I don't have any extra magic power left. Summoning Talus has already drained it all. If I had known this would happen, I shouldn't have taken this S-rank mission, breaking the rules. Lucy felt a pang of pain in her heart. She wished she could do something, even if it meant sacrificing her own safety, to rescue Natsu. Just then, a familiar voice rang from nearby. Hey, what are you doing here? Let go of that fire-breathing bastard, or I'll chop off your companion's head. Gray's ice blade flashed with a cold light, while Yuuka was frozen in ice, with only his head exposed, looking comically helpless. Seeing this, Lucy and Happy were moved to tears and rushed to Gray. Gray, you're finally here, Lucy exclaimed excitedly, while Happy leaped onto Gray's shoulders and patted his face with his little paws. It hurts. Don't touch me, idiot. Gray frowned, but there was a hint of a smile in his tone. In reality, he too was covered in wounds. Capturing Yuuka alive had cost him dearly. Sweat and blood mingled. Let Natsu go, or else. Happy racked his brains but couldn't come up with any harsh words, so he could only scratch the air with his front paws, looking threatening. But he looked so cute that even Yuuka couldn't help but glance at him, his mouth twitching slightly. Yuuka buried his head in shame. He didn't expect that he would become a bargaining chip for the other party to threaten his companions. You got one thing wrong. Weiss looked at them with amusement. This guy and I are not companions. He was even watching me before. How could it be? The situation that the three people thought they had gained the upper hand suddenly became complicated. You're lying, aren't you? "We're not that easily fooled," Lucy retorted without hesitation. "You're definitely trying to take your companion back while we're not paying attention." Yuka then spoke up. "What he said is true. This guy, like all of you, inexplicably appeared on this island. He's not my companion, and I don't believe he cares about my life or death. How could this be?" Lucy collapsed to the ground, her hands covering her face, crying out in disbelief. "Natsu, is he finished?" Tears streamed down her cheeks. Although she had only known Natsu for a short time, she already considered him an indispensable partner. "No matter what, I'm going to rescue Natsu. Even if it means sacrificing my life." Lucy tightly grasped the Aquarius key in her hand, the most powerful celestial spirit in her contract. However, her own limited magic power was not enough to summon such a powerful celestial spirit. But to save Natsu, she was willing to take the risk. Gray and Happy saw Lucy pull out the golden key and immediately grew nervous. They hurriedly stopped her, saying, "Lucy, calm down. You don't have enough magic power to summon the spirits of the zodiac. You'll only harm yourself." Lucy hesitated, gritted her teeth, and was about to unleash her magic. At that moment, the thorns that trapped Natsu suddenly caught fire, the flames growing stronger and stronger, completely burning the thorns. Natsu staggered out of the flames, his body covered in puncture wounds and bleeding. Despite his disfigurement, a bright smile still graced his face. "Lucy, I'm out." "Natsu!" Lucy and Happy shouted in unison, throwing themselves into Natsu's arms. "I thought you were going to die," Happy said, tears welling up in his eyes. Lucy's shoulders shook, and she sobbed softly. She hugged Natsu tightly, fearing she would lose him again. Natsu gently stroked Happy's furry head. "Don't worry, I'm back, right? Is this the power of friendship? It's really enviable." Weiss's voice broke this warm and touching scene. Chapter 118 Calling for Help. Weiss ignored the murderous looks from the others and continued, "Your physical strength is far superior to that of an average person. Is it the effect of Dragon Slayer magic?" Natsu proudly pointed a thumb at his chest. "I'm Ignor's child. This little injury won't do me any harm." Someone like Natsu, gifted with Dragon Slayer magic by a dragon himself, raised by it, their bodies transformed by it, might truly become a true dragon if they mastered it. "I've seen Dragon Slayer magic and celestial spirit magic, so there's no point in continuing," Weiss said, turning and walking away. "Hey, what the hell do you want, you bastard?" Surprisingly, it was Yuka who spoke first. "Why don't you kill these guys?" Weiss paused and turned to look at Yuka, his eyes as cold as if he were looking at a roadside ant. That single glance made Yuka's heart tighten, and he immediately shut up, not daring to meet Weiss's gaze. Weiss turned away and walked away, disappearing completely into the jungle. "That dangerous guy's finally gone," Lucy breathed a sigh of relief, wiping the sweat from her forehead. "I think he's scared," Happy said confidently, flapping his wings and soaring into the air, seemingly imitating the creature's escape. Lucy and Happy, the two lively creatures, became active again. Happy spun in the air, then swooped down to land on Lucy's shoulder. Just then, Natsu's body suddenly staggered and fell to the ground. "Natsu!" Lucy exclaimed, and she and Happy hurried to Natsu's side. Lucy called out anxiously, "Natsu, wake up!" Gray quickly squatted down, carefully checked Natsu's body, and comforted him. "Don't worry, he just fainted." Lucy gently patted Natsu's cheek, finally relieved. "Not bad. This mission is too dangerous. We're almost wiped out before we even met the enemy boss. Let's go back and get reinforcements," the timid Lucy suggested. "This enemy is truly formidable." Gray clutched his aching ribs, a bruise there, the souvenir Yuka had given him. "But I can't give up just like that, and is the Leon this guy is talking about the same Leon I know?" Gray pondered for a moment and proposed a plan. "Let's return to the village first. Natsu and I need to be healed. With Yuka as a hostage, we can threaten those guys to transform the villagers back to their original forms." Happy and Lucy, unable to think of any other solution, agreed with Gray's plan. Weiss returned to the ruins and, upon entering the gate, was met with a stern question from Leon. "Why didn't you rescue Yuka?" Weiss spread her hands and replied casually, "That wasn't part of our deal, you bastard." Leon took a step forward, magical energy surging around him. "You want to fight?" Weiss unleashed her own magical energy, countering Leon's, creating a tense atmosphere. Arusha hurriedly stepped between the two men. "Lord Leon, the seal will be lifted soon. Don't make things complicated now. It's not too late to rescue Yuka after you've dealt with Delira." Leon glared at Weiss, his eyes burning with anger, but he ultimately resisted the urge and stalked away. Why stop him? Are you worried he's no match for me, asshole? If you delay our plan, I'll make you pay. Urusha's forehead bulged with veins, her displeasure at Weiss's attitude. Don't worry, I'm also interested in Delia and won't delay you. Just don't be disappointed. Weiss maintained that mysterious expression, as if he held on to some important secret. What do you know? Urusha's voice grew anxious, trying to control her emotions, not letting the other person see her impatience. If you want to know, trade it for the Ark of Time. I can help you, but the price, you decide. Urusha fumed. Dream on if you want the Ark of Time, then there's no negotiation. Good luck. Weiss threw down a half-hearted blessing and turned away, leaving Urusha standing alone. One day, I'm going to kill you, you bastard, Urusha cursed furiously, her eyes blazing, her fists clenched, as if she were about to pounce. After Weiss left, she found a quiet corner, sat cross-legged, and closed her eyes. I've seen dragon-slaying magic before. It's time to meet the legendary fairy queen. That impatient queen should have already arrived on the island. Elsewhere, Urza, who was disciplining the three men and the cat, suddenly turned back, as if she had sensed something. Natsu and Gray, their heads covered in lumps, collapsed to the ground. Happy and Lucy hugged each other tightly, trembling. Urza glanced around, finding nothing unusual. She turned back and said sternly, Natsu, Gray. The two named immediately rose from the ground and trembled as they sat cross-legged. You're notoriously unruly, but this time you dared to take on an S-rank mission without permission. Urza, listen to me. Natsu stuttered nervously, sweat pouring down his forehead. He knew what awaited him next. Urza mercilessly punched Natsu's right cheek, sending him flying. Even if the president forgives you, I won't let you go. Be prepared. Lucy and Happy could only nod, not daring to argue, fearing they would be implicated. Urza, this isn't that simple. Since you're here, why not get to the bottom of it? Gray said, unwillingly. That's right. Natsu, knocked back, somersaulted to his feet, his face brimming with a desire to fight. I'm going to defeat that guy. Did you even listen to me? Urza's face darkened, her tone even harsher. Natsu and Gray looked stubborn, unwilling to give up this opportunity. The villagers gathered outside the house, looking on expectantly, hoping these fairy tale wizards would be as formidable as the rumors said and solve their problems. Urza sighed, finally making a decision. Since we've accepted this mission, we must complete it. We can't bring shame upon the guild. And we must not let anyone who harms our companions go unpunished. Great. Natsu leaped up in the air, instantly returning to full health. Chapter 119 The Fairy Queen. Deep within the ruins, as the ritual entered its final stages, the iceberg began to tremble slightly, signaling Delia's escape at any moment. Finally, this day has come. I will prove I've surpassed you, Yuru. Years of waiting, all the pain and sweat, coalesced into powerful force in this moment. Leon's eyes shone with an almost frantic determination. The entire world receded into the background, leaving only the struggle between him and Yuru. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and tried to calm the excitement within him. But when he opened them again, the raging fire remained undimmed. My lord, this is bad. The fairy tale gang has broken in. One of his men rushed in, panicking. Leon's face darkened instantly. We must not let them ruin our plan. He then decisively gave the order, Saruti, come with me to stop them. As he turned to leave, Leon's gaze inadvertently glanced at Weiss, filled with undisguised fear and wariness. Don't worry, I'll keep our promise, Weiss said, actually speaking to Urusha. Leon snorted, that's for the best. He then ignored Weiss and turned to lead his men to meet the enemy. Remember your words, Urusha whispered a threat, staring at Weiss as if seeking some kind of reassurance in his eyes. Weiss simply smiled and said nothing more, but his meaningful smile made people feel uneasy. Finally, the fairy tale group broke into the ruins. Weiss immediately saw Urza, with her dazzling crimson hair. She was wearing armor, but it did not restrict her movements in the slightest. Her eyes looked bright and intense, and she exuded an aura of confidence, strength, and beauty, worthy of the title of Fairy Queen. Weiss's eyes were filled with obvious admiration, and this admiration was not concealed, and Urza sensed it directly. She pointed her sword at Weiss. Tell me your name, Urza. Leave this guy to me. Natsu stood between them, his eyes burning with anger. Natsu, is he the mysterious wizard who defeated you? Urza asked. Yes, Natsu said, clinking fists and about to strike. Weiss challenged him, "I'm more interested in the fairy queen than the fire dragon." This immediately broke Natsu's defenses. "Asshole, don't underestimate me." Fierce flames erupted from his body, enveloping him like a blazing volcano. Weiss, faced with such a spectacular spectacle, was somewhat dismissive. A baby dragon's trick? Once is enough. Weiss's words, to Natsu, were undoubtedly a disdain for his abilities. Natsu felt his blood boiling to the bone, veins bulging on his forehead and arms. "Bastard," he roared, then sprinted towards Weiss at astonishing speed. The ground beneath his feet cracked and dust flew up from the overwhelming force. Fire Dragon's iron fist, his right hand, swirling with mighty dragon flames, hurled itself at Weiss like a flaming meteorite, carrying destructive force. However, no matter how powerful the attack, it was useless if it missed. Weiss made no defensive move, merely looking at Natsu with a look that bordered on pity. When Natsu's right fist struck Weiss, time seemed to freeze. Weiss's body disintegrated into countless bubbles. Natsu's fist passed through the void, and the bubbles drifted in the air, eventually vanishing without a trace. How could this be? It was just a clone of Weiss. Natsu's fist swung empty, striking the wall behind him with immense force. With a resounding bang, a gaping hole was shattered in the wall, and the entire ruins shook, sending dust and debris flying everywhere. Damn it, the same trick again. Natsu glanced around unwillingly, searching for Weiss. He sniffed hard, but couldn't smell any trace of Weiss. "Why can't I smell him?" At the same moment, Weiss's true form suddenly appeared before Urza. "Please show me your disguise magic." Urza didn't refuse Weiss's invitation. Natsu is no match for him. "I have to lead him away," Natsu persisted, roaring, "Your opponent is me." He then lunged at Weiss, ready to attack again. Altair quickly stopped Natsu. "Leon may not be a match for Urza. Since this guy has taken the initiative to confront her, it's even better. I just need to hold this simple fool back." "Yes, I accept your invitation to fight." Urza sheathed her sword. "It's too cramped here for us to perform." Without waiting for Weiss's response, Urza turned and walked out of the ruins. Urza's battle plan was simple. From Lucy's description, this guy's magic has a wide range. Lure him out would give Lucy and Happy an opportunity. Weiss didn't care where to fight. He knew what Urza was planning, he just wanted to see some different kinds of magic. "Here," Urza said, surveying the surroundings. They were a good distance from the ruins. "You're okay with that, right? Anywhere, Miss Shukalito, you know me. After all, your fairy tale is so famous." "Then tell me your name." Urza pointed her sword at Weiss. "That's basic respect for your opponent." "I'm sorry," Weiss said gracefully with a wizard's salute. "My name is Weiss." "Weiss." Urza searched for the name in her mind, but found nothing. "I've never heard of it before, just a nobody." "It takes more than a nobody to defeat Natsu," as Lucy said. "This guy can use a variety of magic. We can't let him take the initiative." "I need to take the initiative." A flash of light enveloped Urza, and her knight armor transformed into a garment made of animal hide, with a piece of cloth armor draped down the side. Her weapons became twin swords, and her ears transformed into pointed animal ears. She exuded a feral, powerful presence. "Flying armor," Urza whispered, and her body was once again enveloped in light, this time revealing a light, streamlined suit of armor. This was one of Urza's most commonly used armors, significantly increasing her speed. "Interesting, summoning different armors to fight." Weiss hadn't finished her words when Urza vanished from the scene. "Dang," Urza slashed at Weiss with her twin swords, but was blocked by an invisible layer of armor, a resounding metallic clang. "A sneak attack is not what a knight does." "I'm not a knight, I'm a mage." Urza swung her swords with incredible speed, countless sword shadows intertwining in the air, completely obscuring Weiss's vision. Chapter 120. The Queen was defeated? Ding, ding, ding. A series of crashing sounds echoed through the air. Weiss waved his hand, wind god's breath. A gust of wind erupted from his hand, sweeping up the surrounding dust and fallen leaves into a massive tornado. The wind howled, a hurricane-force wind swirled towards Urza. She quickly retreated, avoiding the fierce gusts of wind. A fireball was rapidly forming on Weiss's wand. With a gentle wave, the fireball, trailing a long tail of flame, shot straight towards Urza. Urza did not dodge Weiss's attack. As a member of the Fairy Tale Guild, Natsu had challenged her countless times since she was a child. She had long since mastered the art of dealing with fire magic. She quickly wrapped her sword in a layer of magical energy and slashed at the center of the incoming fireball. The fireball shattered under the blade, flew past her on either side, and exploded not far behind her, forming two brilliant balls of flame. Weiss observed. Beautiful swordsmanship. Urza's movements, while seemingly simple, demanded immense skill. Not only did she require dynamic vision to discern the trajectory of the high-speed fireball, but she also needed to precisely control the magic energy entwined in her sword. Most importantly, the swordsmanship required to split the fireball in two must have been the product of countless training and actual combat. Weiss's physical fitness was now comparable to Urza's, but he couldn't perform such a difficult move. Really? Someone like that can be considered a wizard. Maybe their talent is misplaced, Weiss couldn't help but grumble, but his attacks didn't stop. Guided by his wand, fireballs rapidly formed and hurled themselves at Urza. Urza, with her deft swordsmanship, slashed them one by one. Such attacks won't work on me, and this one. Weiss raised her wand and pointed it toward the sky. Meteor shower. Instantly, hundreds of fireballs rained down from the sky, densely covering the battlefield. Urza's smile froze. She had never witnessed such a dense barrage. Boom, boom, fireballs slammed into the ground incessantly, each impact accompanied by a thunderous explosion. Urza, agile, dodged the incoming fireballs, decisively slashing those she couldn't avoid with her sword. But the sheer number of fireballs dwindled, leaving her with less and less room to dodge. Finally, she was completely engulfed in the flames. Boom, boom, countless deep craters were blasted into the ground, the forest ablaze, and countless animals fled the inferno in panic. Weiss didn't let the current favorable situation drag her down. If Urza couldn't withstand even this level of attack, she wouldn't be called the Fairy Queen. As the smoke and dust gradually cleared, Urza reappeared, clad in new armor. It was a red base with black patterns and orange trim, a remarkably ornate look. The longsword she wielded had transformed into a blazing greatsword, the Enta armor, possessing extreme resistance to fire. Aside from a dusty face, Urza suffered no real damage. How interesting, Weiss observed with great interest the Enta armor adorning Urza. He hadn't previously noticed the armor, but through it, he glimpsed the high level of alchemy and forging techniques in this world. Forging such an armor was no mean feat. Urza thought Weiss was staring at her. Pervert, she raged. Weiss didn't bother to argue. After all, Urza was truly a captivating woman. Urza brandished her flaming sword and charged at Weiss furiously, determined to teach him a lesson. Just in time, Weiss raised his hand to block the blow. Black flames erupted from his wand, quickly converging into the shape of a longsword. Dang, although he blocked Urza's attack, he had to take a few steps back to steady himself. So much strength, but he doesn't know how to use it. With just one clash, she had already gauged Weiss's strength, then used swordplay to crush him. Ding, ding. The black and red swords clashed repeatedly, sending sparks flying. At first, Weiss, relying on her formidable physique, was able to keep pace with Urza, but as Urza began to adapt her techniques and employ different techniques, Weiss was completely overwhelmed. Urza swept Weiss back with a sweeping blow. Just as she was about to press on, Weiss's black sword transformed once again into a celestial flame, blocking Urza's path. The Enta armor is immune to fire magic. Urza tried to force her way through. When her armor came into contact with the black flames, they clung to it as if alive, and she could not dislodge them. Urza frowned, realizing this was no ordinary flame. What kind of flame is this? Urza watched as the Enta armor was gradually consumed by the celestial flames, forcing her to retract her armor. By then, she was very close to Weiss. Purgatory armor. Urza donned another set of pure black armor. Her weapon transformed into a giant saw-toothed sword larger than herself. Using different armor for different situations is a good idea, but what would you do without it? Weiss said, pouring a surge of magic power into her wand. Disarm. The disarming spell flew with such speed that Urza had no time to dodge before being struck head-on. The saw-toothed sword flew from her hand, and her armor began to peel away. What's going on? Even the Fairy Queen was stunned. In this battle, any moment of distraction could be fatal. Weiss seized the opportunity. Quickly imprisoned, Urza's body stiffened instantly, her movements impeded and her magic power stagnated. 5 rings gleaming with a strange light flew out from Weiss's sleeves, quickly encircling Urza's limbs and neck. Urza decisively summoned a suit of light armor and, gripping her sword, attempted to sever the rings that bound her. Dang, the sword collided with the rings, deflecting them, but also creating a gap in the rings, again. As Urza prepared to push again, the 5 rings suddenly unleashed a powerful electrical current. Urza's body trembled, and excruciating pain ripped through her, nearly knocking her unconscious. The current not only paralyzed her muscles but also disrupted her thinking, making it difficult to concentrate. Chapter 121, Capture Alive. Ouch, the powerful current was unbearable even for Urza, but she didn't stop. Dang, with a second strike of her sword, she decisively severed the restraints around her neck. The other 4 rings released another burst of electricity, and Urza's body convulsed involuntarily. She let out a painful wail, her body pounding with the intense current, sending her collapsing to one knee. She gripped the hilt tightly, struggling to stand again. Gravity spell, Weiss's spell fell, and Urza felt as if a 1,000-pound weight had fallen upon her, sending her plummeting to the ground. Weiss saw Urza collapse in agony and slowly approached, staring down at her. This vantage point gave Weiss a commanding presence. Queen of the Fairies, an S-class mage, is this all you can do? Bah! Urza seized the opportunity to spit out a mouthful of blood, saying stubbornly, "Don't underestimate me." As soon as she finished her words, ropes shot out from the 4 rings, binding Urza tightly. Her body trembled from the shock of electricity, each jolt like countless needles piercing her skin, leaving her powerless to resist. She struggled with all her might, but to no avail. She could only watch helplessly as she was bound. "You seem quite stubborn," Weiss said, pulling a circular device from his pocket and pressing it against Urza's chest. Urza immediately felt 5 cold mechanical legs pierce through her armor, digging deep into her flesh. A strong sense of weakness followed, and her magic power was rapidly draining away. Ouch! Urza moaned, her face pale. Weiss's finger gently lifted her chin. "What kind of magic can you get in exchange for you? I bet your guild leader won't be stingy, asshole." Urza had never felt so helpless since joining Fairy Tail. "Don't try to threaten the guild with me." Every struggle brought new pain, and sweat streamed down her forehead. "Don't waste your energy. You can't break free with brute force," Weiss kindly reminded her. Urza ignored him and focused her attention on the device in her chest that was holding her magic power. "You've absorbed my magic power, so I'll let you absorb it all at once," Urza muttered to herself, then poured all her magic power into the device. As the magic power was injected, black smoke began to billow from the device. As the smoke gushed out, the small device exceeded its design limit. At the same time, Urza evenly distributed the remaining magic power to her limbs, exerting all her strength. Snap! The rope snapped, and Urza leaped back and rolled, creating distance between her and Weiss. The entire process was fluid and took less than 3 seconds. Weiss didn't stop her, even applauding her. "Excellent performance. Not giving up in such a situation is truly admirable." Weiss picked up the broken item, a hint of regret in her tone. "You ruined them before I could even upgrade them." Urza seized the opportunity to quickly consider her next move. Her magic power was nearly depleted, but her stamina remained abundant. Retreat was undoubtedly the best option, but she couldn't abandon Natsu and her companions. Urza wasn't one to abandon her companions. Her armor instantly vanished, replaced by red flaming pants with yellow flames and white accents. Her upper body was tightly bandaged. Her feet were bare, and she clutched the demon sword, Beni Sakura. This was her most primitive form, completely forsaking the defense and bonuses provided by her armor. This posture is totally unbecoming of a wizard. 10,000 bullets, countless bullets rained down. Urza, with her extraordinary agility, dove through the hail of bullets, each leap precise. She gripped the demonic sword, Red Sakura, and stabbed it straight at Weiss's throat. Weiss teleported behind Urza. Thunderbolt explosion, Urza instinctively dodged with a side roll. Before she could catch her breath, Weiss had split into 4 clones, 5 of whom surrounded her in a pentagram. Then, they simultaneously thrust their wands into the ground, and a massive magic circle emerged, with Urza at its center. Countless magic chains began to attack Urza frantically. At first, she was able to dodge the chains, but as they gained speed, her strength grew. "No. I'll be caught if I keep going like this. I must break out of this magic circle." Urza dodged the chain's attacks while observing her surroundings, preparing to break free. Her first choice was to head left. However, Weiss's clone, stationed there, easily repelled her with a single magic bullet. "Don't even think about escaping. I'll wear you down bit by bit. Just be my pawn." Urza, not one to give up easily, attempted another attack from behind. Unfortunately, she was repelled again. Seeing her continued tenacity, Weiss activated her clones and simultaneously raised her wand, firing magic bullets of varying attributes. While these bullets weren't powerful, they were enough to push Urza back again and again. During her attempt to break free, one of the bullets struck her in the abdomen, knocking her back several steps. Damn. If I had armor, this level of attack wouldn't be enough. Urza's heart raced with anxiety, but she hesitated for a split second before a magic chain wrapped around her left wrist. She decisively slashed at the chain with her sword, but it remained intact. It's useless. Weiss pointed his wand, and all the chains in the magic circle swooped down on Urza like snakes, wrapping around her limbs, neck, thighs, and arms. Urza was once again bound and suspended in midair. Weiss took out a potion, pried open her tightly closed mouth, and poured the water of life and death into her. He looked at Urza, who was gradually becoming dazed, and kindly explained, "Don't worry, it's not poison, just a powerful sleeping pill, asshole." Urza struggled to hold up her heavy eyelids, but before she could finish her words, she lost consciousness. Weiss looked at the unconscious Urza, his smile not rising. Urza's strength was not to be underestimated. Without the carefully laid trap, capturing her would have been a challenge. However, his relaxed expression lasted only a second before he turned his gaze to the side and said solemnly to the seemingly empty space, "Come out. Haven't you had enough of this spectacle?" Chapter 122 Delira's Death. As the words fell, an invisible ripple rippled through the air, and Ursha's figure slowly emerged. She maintained her disguise as Saluti, but the fear in her eyes was unmistakable. "I didn't expect you to defeat the renowned fairy queen so easily. I'm afraid you've already attained the power of the 10 holy magi." Weiss's 4 clones stared at her in response to Ursha's assessment. The original Weiss pulled a device similar to the Iron Maiden from a briefcase, trapped the unconscious Urza inside, and then returned the device to the suitcase. "Don't underestimate Fairy Tail," Ursha warned. "Their leader, Makarov Doria, is notorious for being protective of his own children. He also has close ties with the leaders of other guilds. To offend Fairy Tail is to offend almost all of the Light Guild." Ursha's words weren't entirely well-intentioned. In reality, she was plotting how to recruit Weiss to her own advantage. "This guy is incredibly powerful, and his actions are unrestrained. If we can lure him into the Devil's Heart, our chances of victory will undoubtedly increase significantly." Weiss turned to look at her, and the 4 clones immediately adjusted their positions, forming a siege. "Hey," Urusha realized something was amiss. "I'm just reminding you with good intentions." "What do you mean? I'm also interested in your arc of time." Weiss made no secret of his intentions. He didn't mind engaging in another battle. His clash with Urza had partially absorbed the energy of the Philosopher's Stone, increasing his physical strength and magical power. Now he yearned for battle, especially high-intensity battles that would help him more quickly digest the remaining energy within him. "Asshole," Urusha shouted angrily, having never expected Weiss to be so insane, displaying such obvious hostility in her presence. At the same time, a violent surge of magical energy emanated from the direction of the ruins, as if something were about to break free. "Delira's seal has been lifted," Urusha exclaimed in delight. She ignored Weiss, her form dissipating into thin air like a bubble, heading for a more crucial scene. "It's not the real one coming." "No wonder you're so confident." Weiss looked up at the sky. A powerful magical force, on the verge of condensing into substance, surged from the depths of the ruins, inspiring. "Let me witness Delira's demise." Weiss used apparition to vanish from the spot, reappearing within the ruins. His sudden appearance went unnoticed. Everyone's attention was riveted by Delira's escape. Inside the ruins, Delira's massive form tumbled through the air, its cold, merciless eyes scanning the surroundings. It roared to the heavens, its voice reverberating like thunder across the island. Countless animals, sensing the terrifying force, fled in all directions. Its immense size and terrifying magical power cast a powerful shadow over those present. "Ha ha ha!" Leon suddenly burst into a wild laugh. "Finally, this moment has finally arrived." Covered in wounds, he stalked towards Delira. Leon, Gray, despite his own injuries, tried to stop him, but Leon mercilessly pushed him away, sending him plummeting to the ground. Witnessing this scene, Natsu and Lucy were enraged, and just as they were about to engage in another brawl, Weiss suddenly broke the silence. "This creature is already dead." Leon's reaction was the most intense, practically screaming, "What did you say?" Even though Weiss hadn't read the original novel, from the scene before him and Delira's condition, He could tell that the behemoth's lifespan had effectively reached its end. Don't you sense that, despite its seemingly powerful magic, it's actually quite fragile? Its vitality is like a candle in the wind, ready to go out at any moment. Don't you all have that sense? After Weiss's warning, everyone present calmed down and observed Delia closely. As Weiss had said, they had all been intimidated by Delia's former fame, and the powerful magical power it unleashed upon breaking the seal had led them to mistakenly believe it was still in its prime. What the hell is going on? Gray shouted, it's Uru. Uru sealed Delia with absolute ice. Furthermore, absolute ice has been draining Delia's life force for years. In reality, Uru must have already killed her. Great, the fairy tale members cheered. However, Leon still couldn't accept this. Impossible. How could this be possible? Gray looked at his senior, his heart filled with mixed emotions, unsure how to comfort him. At that moment, Natsu, always the straightforward type, rushed towards Delia without hesitation, delivering a powerful punch that struck it hard. As Natsu's fist landed, cracks began to appear on Delia's body, rapidly spreading until they covered its entire body. Then, with a resounding crack, Delia's body shattered into countless icy fragments. Carried by the wind, they gradually dissipated into the air, leaving this world forever. This dramatic scene was beyond everyone's expectations. Only Weiss and Natsu seemed to have anticipated this, while the others stood frozen in place. Leon, in particular, had a look of bewilderment and confusion on his face, as if asking himself, where am I? What am I doing? Finally, Gray broke the silence, saying, it seems that Master Uru has truly accomplished this. We should be proud of her. While everyone was still reeling in the shock of Delia's defeat, Weiss suddenly turned to leave. But after a few steps, he seemed to remember something important. Turning to the fairy tale members, he said, oh, by the way, I've captured Urza. Have your guild leader prepare something to redeem her. With that, he casually threw a piece of paper and left without looking back. What did he say? Natsu couldn't believe his ears and turned to Gray for confirmation, but Gray also looked incredulous, completely unprepared for such a sudden event. Before they could react, Weiss had vanished without a trace. When everyone finally recovered from their shock, Weiss had already taken off in a flying car, soaring towards the island. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123 Double Strike. Weiss piloted his flying car, gradually rising higher until he reached the very top of the purple membrane that enveloped Garna Island. This membrane not only isolated the island from the outside world but also refracted moonlight, giving the moon a strange purple glow. Unaware of this, the villagers simply believed it was a natural phenomenon, but it was actually caused by the lunar magic released during the moon drop ritual. Upon reaching the top of the membrane, Weiss gently touched it with his wand and felt a noticeable resistance. He understood his plan, and as he chanted the incantation, the membrane slowly contracted, condensing into a single mass, centered at the very top. Finally, all the magic converged into a single drop of purple liquid rich in lunar magic. Weiss carefully collected this precious liquid into a special bottle, ensuring it would not leak. After completing this, he glanced down at Garna Island below, restarted his flying car, and disappeared into the night. Returning to land, Weiss enjoyed a peaceful night to fully recover his strength. The next morning, Weiss embarked on a journey to Magnolia City, home to the renowned Magic Guild fairy tale. He boarded a vintage steam train, a design inspired by ancient times but powered by modern magic crystals. This train was not only environmentally friendly and pollution-free, but also offered exceptionally smooth and fast travel, making the journey a truly comfortable one. From the train window, Weiss admired the ever-changing scenery along the way. Magnolia City, a historic magical metropolis with a population exceeding 60,000, was not only a gathering place for many accomplished wizards but also a destination for those skilled in advanced arts such as forging, potion-making, and alchemy. The atmosphere of magic was so strong that it permeated nearly every corner of the city. Upon arriving in Magnolia, Weiss found the entire city in a state of heated discussion. The citizens' conversation gradually became clear. They were discussing the attack on the Fairy Tale Guild headquarters. Have you heard? The Fairy Tale headquarters was attacked. Is that true? It's true, but luckily it was at night. So no one was hurt. Who dared to run wild in Fairy Tale? The residents' words betrayed their sympathy for Fairy Tale. Although Fairy Tale members often caused trouble while on missions, the city's residents knew that these magicians were essentially kind. What a bad time. Weiss gazed at the Fairy Tale headquarters, pierced by several massive iron pillars. Even after such an attack, the building remained standing. After sighing, Weiss didn't immediately enter the guild to investigate. Instead, he decided to find a place to stay. He found a hotel and stayed there temporarily. While Weiss was settling in, Natsu, Gray, Lucy, and Happy returned to the severely damaged guild headquarters with even more devastating news. Urza has been captured. The news was like a bolt from the blue, and the Fairy Tale mages could hardly believe their ears. Natsu and his companions were filled with shame for not being able to protect Urza, and Lucy burst into tears with self-blame. "I'm sorry, if it weren't for us," she choked out. They then told the other members the details of the attack, leaving them no room for disbelief. Everyone's attention shifted to the short, elderly man sitting at the table. He was the Fairy Tale Guild leader. Gulp, gulp. Makarov calmly downed his beer and said, "Show me the paper that guy left behind." Gray handed the paper to Makarov. He first used magic to detect any traps, then, after confirming they were safe, carefully examined the paper. Disappointingly, the paper didn't seem to contain many clues. "As a wizard, you should use the wizard's way." Makarov's steady voice broke the guild's silence. He then tried to channel his magic into the paper, hoping to unlock the hidden information. Meanwhile, back at the hotel, Weiss was buried in a vast collection of magical books, rapidly absorbing knowledge through a pair of special glasses. These glasses weren't just ordinary vision correction devices, but rather a magical item capable of instantly imbuing the user with the contents of an entire book. While this approach was extremely draining on his mental energy, it was just the right choice for Weiss. A pile of previously read books had already piled up before him. Just as he was about to move on to the next book, a small notebook on the table suddenly glowed. "Contacting me so quickly? It seems they truly value their partners." Weiss opened the notebook and wrote a single line. "Hello, Urza is safe now. Who is contacting me now?" Inside the Fairy Tale Guild, Makarov patiently waited after inputting his magic power. Finally, seeing the handwriting gradually appear on the paper, he immediately called out, "Give me a pen." Mira Jane, already prepared, quickly offered the pen, which Makarov took. "Who are you?" Makarov quickly wrote a question on the paper, awaiting the other party's response. Weiss simply gave her name and got straight to the point. "If you want Urza back, trade her for the magic book." Through this magical piece of paper, Makarov and Weiss struck a deal, confirming the time and location. Putting down his pen, Makarov stood up and looked around at everyone in the guild. "Don't worry, I'll definitely bring Urza back safely." Natsu, Gray, and the other members volunteered to join the rescue operation, but Makarov declined, citing the mission's safety. "Lovey, just come and help." He specifically designated the blue-haired girl. Lovey McEwen was not only a member of the Lane Engine Trio, but also a literary lover with a special interest and knowledge of magic books, and her help would be needed on this mission. Yes, President, though not particularly skilled in combat, she had long considered all the members of Fairy Tale family. Makarov noticed her nervousness and comforted her gently. "Don't worry, this time I just need you to help me organize the books." Then, Makarov issued more stringent instructions to all members. "No one is allowed to act alone. We encountered two groups of enemies this time. The situation is complicated and we cannot take it lightly. Regarding the attack on the guild, I will deal with it after I safely bring Urza back." Yes. Chapter 124 The 10 Holy Mages. The next morning, Weiss arrived at the forest outside the city as promised. He stood silently in the white mist, like a silent statue. As the first rays of sunlight pierced the fog, he suddenly opened his eyes, his gaze fixed on the east. Soon, two figures, one tall and one short, gradually emerged from the mist. The shorter one was Makarov, the leader of Fairy Tale, while the taller one was Paloshika, a skilled healing magician and Makarov's friend from his youth. Although she hated human conflict and chose to live in seclusion in a cabin deep in the forest east of Magnolia, she had never refused Makarov's request. She was a tough-mouthed old woman with a soft heart. Upon seeing the two, Weiss bowed politely and greeted them. "Good morning, both of you." Makarov and Paloshika carefully examined the young men before them. "Young people these days are truly remarkable," They actually managed to capture Urza alive. Makarov stroked his graying beard, his tone devoid of anger, though his piercing gaze remained fixed on Weiss. Weiss, facing this situation, replied calmly, "President Makarov, rest assured, Urza's life is not in danger. I only wanted to trade her for something with you, not to become Fairy Tail's sworn enemy." Makarov snorted coldly at this and tossed a box he was carrying to Weiss. Weiss caught it steadily, opened it, and carefully examined the books inside. Confirming everything was correct, he smiled with satisfaction. The books within were all works on magical theory, devoid of any actual magical content. This was exactly what Weiss needed. As expected of Fairy Tail, these magical theories and research materials are truly priceless. Weiss carefully put the precious books away. Makarov, standing nearby, though anxious, remained calm. He didn't rush Weiss, but simply stood there quietly, waiting. Weiss wasn't wasting time either. He raised his wand and pointed it at the clearing in the middle. With a flash of light, the Iron Maiden device descended from the sky, slamming heavily onto the ground with a rumble. Then, the iron gate slowly opened, and Urza fell helplessly to the ground, before the device vanished into thin air. Urza, Makarov, usually composed and steady, lost his composure. He quickly ran over to Urza and helped her to her feet. President Urza's voice sounded unusually weak, blood still seeping from the wounds on her body. Makarov frantically called out to Pirushka for help. "Come and see Urza." Pirushka carefully examined Urza's condition. "It's nothing serious. Just weakness from depleted magic power and some minor injuries," Pirushka said, sniffing the lingering scent on Urza. "Also, she took a strong sleeping pill. With a few days of rest, she'll be fully recovered." Weiss, watching from the sidelines, was impressed by Pirushka's professionalism and efficiency. In just a few seconds, she had accurately assessed Urza's injuries, leaving him with a newfound respect for the healer's abilities. Makarov's tense nerves finally relaxed after hearing Pirushka's diagnosis, and he confidently handed Urza over to Pirushka. Pirushka sighed softly, helped Urza to her feet, and turned to leave. "President, be careful. This guy's not a simple person." Urza, though frail, reminded Makarov to be careful before leaving. Makarov nodded without saying anything, simply watching the two men depart. He turned back to Weiss only after they were completely out of sight. "I haven't been this angry in ages." Makarov's face, shrouded in shadow, made it impossible to discern his expression, but the rage within was palpable. Then vent it all out. "I, too, wish to witness the power of the 10 holy magi." Weiss had already prepared for battle. As his rage grew, Makarov's body underwent a startling transformation. His once short and frail frame began to swell, muscles bulging explosively as he transformed into a 3-meter-tall, muscular giant. This wasn't just a change in appearance, but a leap in strength. With a fist larger than a casserole, he swung out, ripping the air and whipping up a violent gust of wind. Facing such a blow, Weiss didn't hesitate. He teleported behind Makarov and simultaneously launched 5 flaming fireballs straight at his back. However, Makarov displayed agility belying his size, twisting his body and meeting the fireballs with one massive hand. With a crackling sound, the 5 fireballs were easily dispelled the moment they touched Makarov's palm. Not only had his strength and speed increased significantly, but his defense had also reached incredible levels. This powerful being, through his giant magic, had become one of the 10 holy magi. He lifted his right foot and shouted, "Axe chop!" It transformed into a massive battle axe, slashing down at Weiss with a resounding thud. Weiss used teleportation again to dodge the attack. A glint flashed in Makarov's eyes. He had anticipated Weiss's teleportation ability. Instead, he twisted his body and delivered a powerful punch straight behind him, shouting, "Giant fist bone!" This punch embodied all of Makarov's strength and momentum. He was confident that even the most formidable monster would be shattered by this blow. As Weiss teleported behind Makarov, she saw a massive fist filing her entire field of vision, making it nearly impossible to avoid. Although Weiss realized that Makarov had predicted his movements, he chose not to use teleportation to escape this direct confrontation. Instead, he decided to use his own strength to directly counter Makarov's powerful attack. Obstacles abound. 10 layers of rock barriers appeared out of thin air, briefly blocking Makarov's all-powerful giant fist. But this was only the beginning. Weiss stood firmly on the ground, and beneath his feet, a violent vibration shook. A rock fist, even larger than Makarov's giant fist, rose from the ground at a tremendous speed. The two huge fists met in the air and collided with a deafening sound. Chapter 125 Light Magic. Despite the prodigious power of Weiss's rock fist, he seemed powerless against Makarov's transcendental form. When their fists collided, the rock fist shattered, sending debris flying like a miniature meteor shower, stirring up a cloud of dust. Makarov gave his opponent no chance to breathe, his palms extended, intent on grasping Weiss. Unwilling to be outdone by such a threat, Weiss roared, "You are not Tathagata Buddha, and I am not Sun Wukong." Weiss roared, and the flames surging around him were no longer ordinary flames, but swirling masses of black fiery, eerie and powerful. Even the air was distorted by the burning, as if the gates of hell had opened, releasing an ominous aura. Makarov immediately realized the danger of this fiery power and, not to underestimate it, quickly adjusted his tactics. He withdrew his hand, intending to directly capture Weiss, and instead launched a volley of palms into the air. This palm, condensing his entire life's power, unleashed a fierce gust of air, sweeping towards the black flames like a tornado, intent on dispersing the black fire. Simultaneously, this violent force also lifted vast tracts of earth, sending a mixture of sand, gravel, and dirt flying, further escalating the chaos on the battlefield. The battle between the two had entered a fierce stage, with every move and technique capable of changing the course of the battle. Makarov's strength and Weiss's wit were fully demonstrated in this moment. Standing face to face, neither dared to be careless. Even in this tense confrontation, Makarov could not help but admit that the young man before him was far more complex than he had imagined. How many kinds of magic does this kid know? Even though he had been prepared, Makarov was still astounded by Weiss's endless variety of techniques. Meanwhile, Weiss, likewise, secretly admired, "This old man's skills are nothing like those of a man in his 70s, Sandstorm," Weiss shouted softly, and the ground beneath his feet began to crack as if alive. Moisture in the soil, rapidly drained by some mysterious force, transformed into tiny grains of sand. The sand particles continued to gather and expand, and soon, miraculously, a vast expanse of sand had formed in the center of a dense forest. A fierce wind arose, carrying with it flying sand and rocks, and the entire space was enveloped by this sudden storm. The two men stood facing each other, their eyes filled with surprise but not fear. The real battle had just begun. The wind howled, and sand blasted across the battlefield like bullets. Makarov shielded his eyes with one hand, his vision almost obscured. "HMPH, you think you can fool me with such a trick? I can sense your presence even with my eyes closed. Oh? Then I'll see how you deal with this," Weiss's voice echoed through the wind. As he finished speaking, Makarov felt the ground beneath his feet suddenly sink, and his left leg plunged straight into the sand. Quicksand, he knew something was wrong. A powerful suction surged from beneath the sand, attempting to swallow him whole. His massive frame proved a burden, the quicksand swallowing him bit by bit. The swarm of scarabs Weiss had unleashed swept over like a dark cloud, densely covering Makarov's body like a thick layer of black veil. Each beetle devoured his flesh greedily. However, Weiss dared not slack off. How could this old man be so easily defeated? Boom! A dazzling golden light suddenly erupted from the scarabs, instantly vaporizing countless scarabs, leaving only a scorched smell in the air. A deep pit appeared in the sand. The terrifying heat had melted the sand into transparent, glassy substance that reflected a golden light. Slowly rising from the pit was Makarov, restored to his original form, still shrouded in a brilliant golden light, like a descending god of war. "Haha, so naive," Makarov's laughter echoed in the air, and he began to make a series of complex hand seals. Rain of light, as his gestures completed, a vast golden magic circle materialized between his hands. Immediately, a continuous rain of light arrows erupted from the magic circle, each one carrying immense force, hurtling towards Weiss. Weiss quickly raised his hand, and a wall of sand suddenly appeared before him. However, the light arrows effortlessly pierced through it. Mirror back, Weiss's voice had barely escaped him, and the incoming light arrows were deflected in all directions by an invisible force. The surrounding trees were easily pierced, leaving a devastating mess. Weiss, however, remained unharmed, a pair of massive sand hands tightly protecting him in the center. "You've got quite a few tricks, kid." "Same here," Weiss replied calmly. With a flick of his wand, the sand palms swatted Makarov like flies. Bang! Makarov, nimble and agile, easily dodged the blow, but countless hands reached out from the sand, clawing at him. Like a canoe bobbing in a turbulent sea, Makarov was swayed by a sandpaw, falling to the ground. Then, countless grains of sand poured down, burying him completely. Mysterious runes quietly emerged from the sand's surface, and Weiss intended to seal Makarov completely in one fell swoop. However, as the runes appeared, the ground began to shake violently, shaking not only the ground beneath his feet but the entire forest. Rays of golden light shot out from the ground, and the ceiling glow gradually dissipated. Makarov emerged from the ground, emanating a powerful wave of magical energy, shattering everything around him. "Boy, you have a lot to be proud of, to have pushed me to this point." Makarov clasped his hands together, preparing to launch the final attack. Explosion of light. With his shout, a massive wave of light swept toward Weiss, its terrifying power causing even the air to tremble. Weiss concentrated all his magical power into his wand, and a dazzling white light gradually gathered at its tip. As the wave approached, he pointed his wand forward, and a streak of white light streaked across the sky like a meteor, meeting Makarov's fatal blow. The two forces collided in midair, accompanied by a loud bang and a dazzling burst of light. The entire battlefield seemed to be torn apart by this energy. The dazzling light briefly overshadowed the sun in the sky, and the massive shockwave flattened the entire forest, leaving a bottomless crater in the ground. Smoke and dust filled the air, and everything seemed to return to calm. Ahem ahem. Makarov waved his arms to disperse the dust, but Weiss was nowhere to be seen. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.